We're gonna retry this. Hold on. One second. 1 second. Okay. Give it a minute. Give it a minute. Give it a minute. Give it a minute. Okay, how about now? How about now? Are we good? Are we good? Give it a minute. Should be good. Yeah, we should be good. We should be good. Okay. Okay. Sorry, that was embarrassing. That's after 3 years of doing this, that's that's how we should have listened to Drake on mute. Oh boy, I was up late last night. I have some thoughts about Mr. Drizzy. He's only been doing this 5 years. Give him a break. Thank you, Gene. Thank you. It's only been 5 years. It takes a little while to get good at something. It's not me. It's StreamYard. Okay, it's L StreamYard. It's not me. StreamYard. We'll blame the data centers in New Jersey taking away the energy from StreamYard. Anyway, we are live. Thank you all for being here. Good morning. It is Friday. It feels like this was a very long week, but also a fast week in terms of all the different stuff that we all had to deal with. S&P 500 is downy down in the pre-markets. We're down about 1.2%. We are getting, honestly, the first red day that we've seen in a while. We had a red day on Tuesday, I think, which, I mean, it was red, but it ended up getting resolved within, honestly, a couple hours. Today feels a little bit more red. There's a lot of different things happening today. There's a lot of different headlines that we have to talk about. Stuff from China, stuff with the Iran war. You've got options expiring today for mid-May, and so that could be creating some shenanigans. And then in general, maybe people want to take some profits. We also have some super investors who have disclosed their holdings, some big things they're selling, some big things they're buying. So we'll talk about that as well. But yeah, it's a red Friday, at least for now. We'll see how long this red lasts. And put in the chat, we'll actually do that as our poll for today. Do you think the red pre-market actually closed red? Because we have not had a red day in about 2 weeks, like a red open, red close. And if we have, it's been like minuscule. It's not even been something worth discussing. I think a lot of people thought it would happen, and then within a couple hours, we recovered intraday and we ended at an all-time high in the S&P. But let's do that as the poll to start today. Do you think the red will last till end of day? All right, before I get started, and again, good morning. I'm going to talk about Drake real quick. Give me 2 minutes because I'm already seeing so many comments about it. I liked the initial Iceman album. I did not like the other two albums. He put out 3 albums. I didn't like the other 2 albums. The other 2 were very singing auto-tune based, so I'm kind of just assuming he just threw it out there to throw it out there, but it's not really like the Drake albums. The actual Iceman album itself, I've listened to it 1.5 times. I like it. There's a few bangers on there. I love the visuals he put out last night. I was just not a fan of multiple albums. So that's my take so far. I've got to spend a lot more time listening to it, but I did like the initial listen. I don't get the whole singing stuff on the other 2 albums. I thought it was a little too much, but the actual album itself, I like. So that's my take. That's my take on the Drake album. Anyway, and for those that are confused, yeah, I didn't expect him to do 3 albums, and I was excited when I saw the announcement, and then I listened to the other 2 albums, and there was just a lot of singing, and yeah, I was just like, okay, this is not really core Drake rapping, but Iceman is the album that I actually like. All right, so let's get into it. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We have a ton of headlines to discuss, and there's one big headline that's actually causing Nvidia to go down, and we started seeing this happen last night, which is why I think we're red in the pre-market. Nvidia hit 240 last night. I was with Steve last night recording Basis Points. That new episode will be out today at 6 p.m. Amid talking about Drake like he talks about earnings reports. Yeah, he beat on revenue, missed on EPS, but only slightly. That's crazy, bro. That's crazy. Nvidia hit 240 last night while I was with Steve and we were recording the podcast. And then it started going down. And the reason it started going down, which is kind of having a cascading effect across the entire market, along with a bunch of other reasons, is because Trump came out on Air Force One and he said the H200 is a great chip, but we didn't have any discussion with selling them to China, which is going back against the narrative that we heard yesterday, which is that Nvidia has full permission to sell the H200s in China. And so this is very contradictory. And, this is 2026. We've had many contradicting statements across the entire. Wow, Japan just got hit by an earthquake, 6.29 magnitude. Oh, my. Just came out, about 5 minutes ago. Earthquake of magnitude 6.29 strikes down in Japan. All right, so we'll see if we can get any more updates from that. But That is what you got. So this goes against the claim, right? That China was going to be able to sell the chips. Now, China already, I kind of thought the claim was weird yesterday because they asked Besant about it on CNBC, and Besant was like, well, this is new to me. And he tried to make up something on the spot that sounded intelligent, but even he didn't know that was happening. And then two, China already said that we're going to have our own chips domestically manufactured in our country. And, Huawei and all these other companies are starting to ramp up their production. Obviously, it's not as good as Nvidia, but nonetheless. So it was kind of weird to me that the Chinese just were like, yeah, sure, we'll buy more H200s. Now, granted, I think they want to, but it was kind of weird for them to immediately accept it. So by Trump saying we never even had that discussion, boom, that's why Nvidia started taking a hit in the pre-market. And I think that, along with a couple of other headlines that we'll talk about, have caused a little bit more downside action across the board. Yesterday was a crazy green day. We were up almost at 750 on the S&P 500, 748. We're down about 1.14%. Again, I'm very curious if the dip gets caught up or if Trump says anything to capitulate. But as of now, that is, I think, the core reason for Nvidia. Number two, our bond yields are becoming an issue. Now, I know I say that every day, and my pushback against even my own argument about bond yields is that they're just bond yields. Who cares? I mean, at the end of the day, AI CapEx is all that matters. Well, today, it feels like it matters. 10-year officially 4.5, 30-year above 5%. We actually issued bonds at the 5% above the 30-year for the first time since 2007 yesterday in the auction. And then 2 years at 4%. Germany's 10-year bond yield rises to 3.13%, the highest since 2011. The UK 30-year is above 5%. And then obviously Japan has had high yields for the past couple of years. Past couple of months. So the bond market is starting to say, we are not that happy, Mr. President, with inflation being as high as it is. By the way, oil not helping out this morning as well, up 3%, 104. It was at 100 last night. So you got oil up based on what Trump said about Iran, which we'll talk about. You got bond yields spiking. And then you got Trump basically acknowledging that we never said we would allow Nvidia to sell their chips to China, going against the reports that came out yesterday. And then you probably have the general profit taking that exists inevitably when people have a big week, and you also have options expiring today. So you put all of that. Also, CPI and PPI were horrible this week, right? So you put all that together. Yeah, it'll probably result in a little bit of a red day again. I wonder how red this day actually will be, given given how easily the dip is bought. But time will tell, and we're going to see how this ends up playing out. Poet just diluted. Poet is raising $400 million from one institutional investor at $21 a share, above its price of $20.57. Poet is down 14% in the pre-market. Okay, so for everyone yesterday in the market close that was going crazy that this thing was going up to 23 and you missed it, there you go. It actually hit 24. It actually hit 25.68, and now it's at 17.84. That is your dip. So there you go. For those that are so upset they missed this one, I mean, 25 to 17. You can't tell me that's not at least the dip you nibble on if you were really excited about it. Maybe it goes lower, but if this is the bottom of that downfall, then you buy this. It is kind of surprising. 400 million from an institutional investor at 21. That means that institutional investor at least thinks it's worth 21. So you could kind of spin this as bullish. Nonetheless, dilution is going to be bearish in the short term. But there you go. There might be an argument for why that stock did make a run over the, and again, they had that big deal yesterday, and that's why, the street got excited about it in the first place. AAOI is down about 5.9%. They were down 8.7% yesterday. Micron is down today as well, 742. Micron's going to be interesting. Does this thing actually get to the low 700s like it did on Tuesday when the market opens? Or does this dip get bought up as soon as the market, as soon as the market opens? I'm going to be curious to see what happens versus the price action from a couple of days ago versus today. Cerebras down 3%. Guess who bought Cerebras last night? None other than our girl, Kathy Wood. I mean, I don't know what price she got it at, but of course it'd be Kathy buying Cerebras. By the way, there's a 2x Cerebras ETF launching this morning. This is also part of the reason I think the broader market is kind of selling off today, not necessarily because of Cerebras, but it feels a little euphoric with this company trading at the valuation that it's trading at, along with the fact that the leverage of Cerebras is launching, and that's just going to create even more euphoria into this name. I think a lot of people don't even know what the hell Cerebras does, but they're excited because it's a chip name. So, you have some of that. That's probably causing a little bit of profit taking right there. Nubank, they had a good earnings. That's down 6.5%. I don't know why they are down as much, but they were down about 10%. Archer's down about 2%. Marvell's down 5%. Pretty much everything is taking a little bit of a hit in the pre-market based on some of these headlines that we got. S&P 500 again down about 1.1%. At 300, Cerebus has like 3 years of hyper growth baked in. Yeah. Which is, also a question on how much do people actually want to price in that growth in the moment. All right, Iran. What happened with Iran yesterday? So Trump is back from China. We don't know any progress that was made on China or what exactly happened in China. All we know is that Trump basically has said that, it was a good meeting and that we had effective dialogue and discussion, but we don't exactly know what deals have been made and kind of how this is played out. Here's an update on that, and then we'll listen to Trump himself and what he had to say from China.
In case of a military confrontation, the president said he didn't respond to that. But striking, of course, Joe, that Xi Jinping would have asked President Trump directly about the issue of Taiwan and whether or not the United States would defend the island militarily. The president saying here that he just simply didn't respond and moved on to a different topic. On the issue of the H200 chips in Nvidia, the president said those did not come up in conversation. On tariffs, the president said those did not come up in the conversation. On the issue of Iran and the blockade, the president said that he did not ask Xi Jinping for any favors on the blockade. He said there was a proposal on Iran that he didn't like, and he dismissed it out of hand because the first sentence was not good. He didn't say exactly what the first sentence was that was not good from the Chinese side, but he says he dismissed that. He's not asking for any favors, and it does not sound from the way the president was talking, Joe, that he will be getting any help from the Chinese in the Strait of Hormuz or with the Iranians. So the president talking to reporters, a testy exchange at times with some of the members of the media who are on the plane, calling them names and so forth, but suggesting that he had a good visit. He enjoyed his meeting with Xi Jinping, and he considers him a friend. Joe.
Yeah. I would ask you what.
So this is Trump last night talking about China's proposal to deal with Iran and how Trump immediately rejected it when he heard it.
Sir, I know there'll be a lot of questions around the China trip, but just first on Iran, have you rejected the latest proposal from Iran, or where does that stand?
Well, I looked at it, and if I don't like the first sentence, I just throw it away.
What was the first sentence?
An unacceptable sentence, because they're fully agreed, no nuclear, and if they have any nuclear of any form, I don't read the rest of it.
So 20 years is not enough for you. It's got to be a permanent.
No, 20 years is enough, but the level of guarantee from them is not enough. In other words, it's got to be a real 20 years, not a big one.
You've got to get all the fuel out and no more production.
We have to get everything, but
honestly, I don't know what we got from this China meeting. All of these headlines, I'm just calling it like it is, seem like just like headlines. Like there's no substance behind any of this. I mean, a lot of the stuff that we're seeing from the meeting in China, the Nvidia stuff was fake. Okay, so we didn't even get that out of it. There's no Tesla deal. That, I mean, I'm not even sure why Elon and Jensen went, to be honest. It seems, as Andy says, that it was an expensive tea party. I mean, like, that's what it feels like. It doesn't seem like we made any progress on Iran because Trump rejected China's proposal. By the way, China probably didn't capitulate to give him like the way China would have capitulated is if they said, hey, let's strike a deal in some capacity. Maybe you reduce some tariffs or whatever, and we will tell the Iranians to open the damn Strait of Hormuz and get this over with. That didn't happen. That would have sent oil tanking. That would have sent the market soaring. It would have got our 10 years to relax. And that's kind of what I thought maybe there was a chance for, where Trump would have said, hey, we'll do X, Y, Z. And you guys, you guys are friends with those guys. We're adversaries with them. Just strong arm them because you buy most of their oil. If you say, hey, open the Strait of Hormuz because we're telling you to do it, they're probably going to listen to you. But it doesn't seem like that's happening, right? So then I'm questioning why we even went to China outside of taking the photos with Xi. And the worst thing that happened is, to add insult to injury, they went to China, and Trump and Rubio told us this. The Chinese didn't even want to talk about Iran. The thing they wanted to talk about, which is what we discussed last morning, was Taiwan and reunification. And Rubio and Trump basically ignored it because they obviously don't want to piss them off and say, we completely disagree with you on that. And they obviously can't say, we agree. Yeah, you should unify. So it's like they kind of had to accept the policy of stagflation, I guess, when it comes to the Taiwan issue. And so I don't really know what happened as a result of that. And that's also a reason I think the market's red, because the market's just like, okay, so we don't really know what we got from this China meeting. I mean, the fact that the Nvidia headline was reversed is I mean, that's just a slap in the face, right, to the entire market. But number two, it's like, okay, if we didn't get any major Iran progress, then that's also a big issue. So S&P down 1.18. Again, we're going to see what happens. Trump went to get Chinese food. You know, they had a lot of festivities. They took him to a bunch of different temples. So, I mean, it seems like it was a fun time. But at the end of the day, in the context of Iran, and the only reason I'm really bringing this up and framing it as an issue is because, once again, our bond yields are screaming. And every day, as I mentioned this, I mean, we're basically at 4.6. The top was 4.8 back in April of last year. And that's when the S&P was down 30%. Now, thankfully, the markets have had the AI earnings capex growth to ignore that. But at some point, dude, these are the credit markets. The credit markets matter more than the stock market because the cost of capital controls the basis for everything. So at some point, are we going to acknowledge this? Is Trump going to care about it? Or do we just let this thing run hot and, start paying $2 trillion a year on our interest expenses of debt versus $1 trillion? So I don't know. By the way, Fed rate cut probabilities have been completely taken down for the next 2 years. In fact, the U.S. interest rate futures now reflect more than a 50% probability of a Fed rate hike by January, which would be devastating, I think. Forget the stock market, for the economy, if people had to pay higher rates on mortgages, credit, auto loans, et cetera, if we raise rates, which ultimately control the rates of everything else in the economy, by January. I mean, that's, half a year away. That would be crazy. Hall says, sounds like they had a meetup. Yes, they had a meetup, basically. They basically had a meetup. That's what happened. And if that meetup was the top, if this red continues, then Trump pulled in a mitt. Because my Chicago meetup wasn't the top, actually. My Chicago meetup, we kept the party going. But we'll see what happens. It looks like that's why we are red in the pre-markets as of now. Triple V, thank you for being here. Thank you for the $200 super chat. Deeply, deeply appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Triple V. Thank you for being part of the chat. Dunce, thank you for being part of the chat. I've been a member for 11 months and counting. Appreciate you, Dunce. Hopefully you had a good birthday a couple weeks ago. And thank you for being part of the channel. AAOI just diluted under $600 million. Poet, again, diluted $400 million. So you got two companies with some dilution. This morning, U.S. Energy Secretary Wright says, I think China will be a bigger buyer of U.S. crude oil. U.S. Energy Secretary Wright, it's up to Iran on how to deal with the Strait of Hormuz. And Wright predicts more pipelines are coming into the Middle East in order to navigate the oil crisis, which obviously as of right now is still an issue with oil still above $104. Okay, let's talk about some other headlines. Bill Ackman, he bought a new stock. Does anyone want to guess what it is? He bought a new stock. He has Google, Amazon, Meta, Hilton Hotels, Chipotle. Does anyone, Hertz, Uber? Does anyone want to guess the new one that he bought? It's not that surprising. Oh, you guys know it already. Okay. Either everyone's guessing or everyone knows it. A decent amount of people know it. All right, you guys got it. It is indeed the Microsofts of the world. 410, Microsoft up about 0.25%. I think this is such a good buy. I think it's such a good buy. I mean, it's, first of all, so obvious of a buy. Like, Microsoft and Meta are not dead companies. They will be back. Bill Ackman is someone who has institutional capital. He can load the boat on Mr. Microsoft and just let it rise. And, the stock was $550 before it collapsed last year. Went down to $350 because of some stupid narrative that software is dead, which every single day, more and more, I'm starting to believe this. It really is a stupid narrative. And Microsoft will eventually be back. So I don't think it's crazy for Microsoft to get the bid. Now, granted, if you want to follow them into Microsoft, if you followed them into Meta, you're still, not really doing that well. So, but then again, I don't think it's because of Ackman. I think it's just because Meta and Microsoft aren't getting the bid right now. So I don't think these are horrible buys. He probably bought it maybe. I mean, if he bought it in Q1, then he probably got it around the 370s, 380s. Maybe he got in the low 350s, which means if that's the case, he's already sitting on a gain. And, this is something that's going to compound pretty nicely over the next 10 years. If we believe in AI, we believe in the cloud, Microsoft is going to be okay. So that's what you got on Microsoft, and that's what you have on Meta. ServiceNow is up a little bit in the pre-markets. Today is going to be interesting because ServiceNow is green. Is Salesforce green? Salesforce is green. Adobe, are we green? Adobe is green. So the semis are down. The indices are down. Some of the software names are up. So it's not all the software names, though. So hopefully we see a little bit of rotation. If we do see that rotation, I think it would be, maybe healthy for the market. But then again, if everything falls, then maybe everything falls. Another big institutional buy that we got yesterday. Meta, Alphabet, and TikTok CEOs invited for a Congress hearing in June as per Axios. Okay, so you're going to see Zuck, Sundar, and the TikTok guy from Singapore in Congress for a hearing in June. Another big move we got yesterday, Shopify. Josh Kushner's Thrive Capital took a stake in Shopify. This was very surprising to me because Thrive Capital, if you keep up with any of their progress in the private markets, they stick to the private markets. They don't pick public equities. They primarily trade late stage capital and private equity. So the fact that they took a stake in Shopify was very surprising to me. $100 million stake. And I mean, I definitely think it takes it makes it more appealing to look at. Now, the valuation on Shopify has never been that attractive, but then again, you know, it is Shopify at the end of the day. It's a very high quality company. I don't think there's the bear case of like Shopify will be commoditized by AI. I really don't think that. I think Shopify will be intertwined with agentic commerce. I mean, if you actually talk to someone who's used Shopify on their backend, the idea that they would just rip all of that out and have Claude manage it, I mean, maybe, but it feels very unlikely that's going to happen. 35% year-over-year growth, highest GMV they've ever had in history. And the stock's down 40%. So I think there is a reason why Josh Kushner is taking a stake. Also, Josh Kushner is very close to the Trump administration. I mean, in this type of economy where our president is trading stocks, as we talked about yesterday, I'm assuming the guy might have some information. And that information may be manifesting itself in a reason to buy Shopify. If they bought it in Q1, which it looks like that's what the disclosure is, under 100 means you're getting a better price than the Kushners, because it did not go below 100 in Q1. It touched like 105 was the bottom. So Micron, by the way, down 4.5% pre-market. So it seems like there's a shot that this one ends up taking off when the SaaS apocalypse is done, but time will tell. Shopify right there, 97.17. Even that's not even pumping it pre-market. So, you know, the sentiment on that is still pretty bad in the moment. Okay, so that's what we have with Shopify, and that's what we have with Microsoft. Figma had a great earnings. This stock should be up like 30%. I mean, those earnings were unbelievable in terms of the level of growth they put up. That's how you know the sentiment still is that bad around software, when a company like Figma can grow 46%, put up massive backlog numbers and amazing adjusted EBITDA numbers, and still just not really catch a bid. Like, yeah, it's up 7%, but the thing is also down 80%. So really the market is still not getting that excited. Is Josh related to Jared? Yes, they're both brothers. And Josh runs Thrive Capital. So free cash flow, almost $100 million, 27% margin, net dollar retention, 139%. That's incredible. Anthropic's net dollar retention, by the way, is 500%. So that's another reason why the market continues to compare these software companies against Anthropic and says there's no way, we're going to buy software right now over semis. Adjusted EPS 10 cents versus negative 6 cents expected. So they were now GAAP profitable, which is amazing. Revenue $333 million as well. I mean, you just got a ton of momentum. Q1 was an incredible quarter for Figma. Revenue growth accelerated for the second quarter, and with customers are going bigger and broader with Figma than ever. Our outperformance in Q1 was fueled by stronger than expected seat expansion across entire organizations. That's the part that people think will be commoditized, driven by design's growing importance and adoption of our AI products. That probably should be a reason for why Adobe catches a little bit of a bid, given Figma intertwining with AI is not necessarily Claude design killing Figma. But, we're going to have to see if that actually happens, or if they end up going red with the rest of the market when this market ends up opening. So that is what we got. That is what we got with some of these core AI headlines. We're gonna get a lot more 13Fs today after the bell, and so we'll get a bit more information on what the Druckenmillers and the Buffetts of the world are all doing, and kind of how they are thinking about this broader market. Trump tweeted last night, China has a ballroom, and so should the USA. It's under construction ahead of schedule and will be the finest facility of its kind anywhere in the US. Thank you for all the support I've been giving in getting this project going. Scheduled opening will be around September of 2028. The man I'm walking with is President Xi of China, one of the world's greatest leaders, President DJT. So, yeah, Trump obviously cared about this ballroom, and he's making sure that he tells people how much he cares about this ballroom. What did you guys say on the poll in terms of if you think the red or green is going to continue? Let's take a look at it right here. Rumble is down. Earnings kind of sucked. Nothing too interesting. 64% of you say yes, the red will last throughout the rest of the day. All right, when the market opens, we are going to see Jujubee. Thank you for the super chat. You do not have to send that. Appreciate you being here. And thank you for showing up to the Chicago meetup as well. It was great to see you. Can you wish my dad, Robert Ortiz from Wisconsin, a happy birthday? He turned 77 today. Robert Ortiz from Wisconsin, happy 77th birthday. You have raised an incredible daughter, and it was amazing to talk to her and learn about her story at Chicago. And I was very, very grateful to hear from her and have her come out and share her experience with all of us. So thank you for being part of the show, Jujubee. Appreciate you. Hopefully you have a great birthday with your pops. 77, baby. It's incredible. I love it. Thank you for being here, and happy birthday to Mr. Robert Ortiz. Silver is down 9%. Goodness gracious. What happened, dude? This is like some days you just wake up and everything. And it was given a preview of this to us last night after we hit an all-time high. And sometimes it just randomly happens. I don't see a headline for silver. Gold's down 3 as well, which means copper's down because they just follow gold and silver. I don't know, guys. What are you thinking? Is it one of those days where it's like a legit red day, or is it just a head fake again? Because Tuesday was a head fake, right? Micron down 10%, boom, reverse in the middle of the day. I mean, Nebius, if it even goes down 10%, it'll be at 200. Boo-hoo, who cares, right? Like, Rocket Lab did hit 135 yesterday. Is this thing going back to, it's at 126 right now. Is it going back to 115? Would anyone care that much? Like, is it really going to be that type of a day? Nvidia 240 down to 228? Or does this dip just get bought up? Bond yields are imploded. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the core reason. And again, I think Trump is so emboldened by the stock market going up that I don't know, did he not really try to push for a way to get the Chinese to help us end the war? Because I think his lack of trying, or maybe just the lack of a deal coming through for whatever reason, is enough to get the market to be like, look, we've ignored this long enough, but we're not ignoring this anymore. Like, either you get oil down and get the Strait of Hormuz open, or we're going to sell off your bonds and you're going to have to pay us a higher yield. And that's going to affect the broader stock market, which obviously affects people's 401ks as well. You've got the Iranian foreign minister. Here's a couple quotes that they just said. We have no trust with the Americans. We are trying to keep the ceasefire to give diplomacy a chance. Agreed with the U.S. to postpone negotiations on enrichment material. We have received messages from the U.S. saying they are seeking to continue talks. Once U.S. aggression ends, everything will go back to normal, and we will make arrangements for a safe passage for all the vessels through the Strait of Hormuz. Iran is interested in continuing the energy business with India. Iran is prepared to go back to fighting and also prepared for diplomatic solutions. They're definitely not ready to go back to fighting, and neither is the United States. Both sides do not want to fight. I think it's kind of obvious they don't actually want to fight. And if we do get back to fighting, it's not going to be pretty. So we're going to get a deal eventually, hopefully. But we just got to see when it happens. Morgan Stanley today expects the Federal Reserve to keep interest rates unchanged through 2026, with 2 cuts now seen in March and June of 2027. Again, that's Morgan Stanley's interpretation. The Fed futures are pricing in a hike in January and no cuts in 2027. So obviously Morgan Stanley pushing back their timeline for cuts, but at this point, the Fed futures are not predicting that we're going to get these cuts. The bank cites easing inflation and moderating tariff pressures and still projects solid U.S. growth of 2.3% in 2026, despite some short-term consumer weakness. Again, the reason they're saying easing inflation is because Morgan Stanley, along with the other banks, are assuming that the inflation is going to be transitory. I mean, that's just the nature of what they literally think this CPI and PPI, that's the highest it's ever been in 4 years, will go away once oil comes down. And theoretically, I think that, yeah, theoretically that's right if oil actually goes down, because I don't think there's a broader structural reason why we're seeing this massive inflation. But like, when is oil going down, I guess, is the question. I mean, we started this war on March 4th. It's May 15th. If this thing actually goes till the end of June, I mean, I don't know. This is, now remember, the midterm election graph that I keep bringing up, the reason I bring it up is because this is around the time where we top out in a midterm year. I don't know if that's going to happen again. It absolutely doesn't have to happen again. But the point is, if you're looking for a sort of a historical reason for why we would get a little bit more of a bear case, S&P 500 post-election years, aka midterm years, on aggregate, May to October tends to suck. And I think that was the thesis a lot of people had going into the year. It's just we got such a big reversal that it was like, oh, that thesis has to be gone. But we're actually on par for that thesis to play out if that's what you believe in. It would be the best buying opportunity that we could imagine, given we've seen the earnings growth of all these companies. And are there some euphoric, overvalued companies? Like, yeah, if Cerebras goes down to even 200, I don't know if I'm that interested in buying it. But I mean, if Nvidia goes back down to the 190s, I am kind of interested in buying. Now, do I see that happening? Not really, given, again, the earnings growth is so strong and the sentiment is so good. I don't know if that could happen. But if our bond yields start exploding, which is what they're doing right now, you're already seeing Nvidia get hit by 3%. Like, how much worse does it have to get for people to just be like, I'm out? And I'll wait till we end up figuring this out. Also, Samsung, that's correct. Thank you for bringing that up. The Kospi, I forgot to mention this. This was another big headline last night. Kospi fell 8% in South Korea. Samsung has not been able to achieve it. Or sorry, Samsung fell 8%. Kospi down 6.3%. They've not been able to get a deal with the workers and the unions, which is an issue. Samsung refused a new deal today with the unions, and obviously that's creating a bigger problem. Samsung is basically 25 to 30% of the Kospi. You have SK Hynix that is falling today as well. So these memory companies, they are really the basis for South Korea's massive, massive move. They're also the basis for Micron, SanDisk, Western Digital to be in the right bucket. I mean, SK Hynix is now a $900 billion company. So it's half of TSM. And the earnings growth has to be substantial and continue for the market to continue giving it that type of 4P. Again, all the analysts that I've looked at for the memory stocks, by 2028 to 2029, they see a 30 to 50% fall off in growth. If you're a long memory, you have to believe that's not going to happen. If that does start to become more material by 2027, which is next year, that price will immediately start to reflect that. You're going to see a drawdown. Now, again, the whole memory thesis is that we have way too much demand versus supply, and the pricing power is on the memory side, which is why these stocks have the ability to expand their multiple. It's just a question of how much the market believes that going into the coming years, and how much the earnings continues to prove it. Juju says we are going to his favorite place to eat, which is Texas Roadhouse. That is my favorite place to eat as well. Honestly, I should be an owner of that stock. Like, I love going to Texas Roadhouse. I know their steaks are not amazing, but their steaks are pretty decent, and I do love eating there. So enjoy it, Juju B. Hopefully you get some nice bread with butter at the Roadhouse. I need to go to Texas and go to a Texas Roadhouse inside of Texas. I need to do that this summer. Free peanuts. Yes, that's also true. Free peanuts. Nvidia, TD Cowen lifted their Nvidia target to 275, up from 235. The firm remains bullish, citing strong AI demand, hyperscaler spending, and Nvidia's expanding Blackwell and Rubin pipeline, which it says could support upside to estimates and reinforce the company's AI leadership. Bank of America also increased them to 320. So you've got a ton of these firms continuing to be excited. Bank of America's Harnett came out today. This is their macro guy, who's been pretty bearish this year, so take this with a grain of salt. But he's looking for a June pullback. Semiconductors index remarkably trading at 62% above the 200-day moving average, comparable only to the French market peak Mississippi bubble, the NASDAQ peak at .com bubble, exponential price action, market concentration, collapsing volume stocks, bossing bond yields higher, why melt-ups everyone's new base case is not the case. Bull capitulation to stocks and tech likely fully complete in the next few weeks, early June, ripe for some taking off the table. So he's looking at the last time we had a sector of the market be over 50% of its 200-day moving average. And you get Black Monday in 1985. You get the Mississippi Company in 1718 in France. You get the Roaring 20s in 1926. You get .com in 1998. You get Saudi Arabia's market in 2004. You get China in 2005. And then you get Japan in 1986. We talked about this stat already. It shouldn't be a new stat for people. The way to ignore this stat is just to look at the earnings growth of the semiconductors in comparison to their market capitalization. And that makes you think, okay, well, it's justified. Nonetheless, it's still heavily concentrated. Terry Smith, he's a big super investor. He updated his portfolio and he made some sells. Sold all of his Intuit. He's out of software. Sold all of his Nike, out of consumer brands. Sold 15% of his Google and sold 61% of his emerging markets. So as you can see on the screen, sells and sells and sells across the board. He is starting to move towards cash. We did see a bunch of people yesterday disclose ServiceNow and Salesforce as like two major buys. So far, the top 10 stocks bought in the last 2 quarters. This is based on, I think, about 30 disclosures. Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, Visa, Fiserv, Disney, Uber, Adobe, Comcast, and Google. So you have a lot of big tech. You got Disney up there. You got one of the finance names up there, Fiserv, Visa as well, FinTech. And then you also have Adobe as the core software name so far. There have been a lot of, obviously, Salesforces and ServiceNows. I'm curious if Buffett took a pretty big stake in any of the software names. And, we're going to see if that happens. Now, again, all this selling is over the past 3 months. So a lot of this selling at the end of the day Probably either if it was in January was the highs, if it was in March, it was the lows as of now. But if it was buying, it could have also been the buying of the lows, and they might have sold in the past month and a half. So we won't find out for the next 45 days if that ends up playing out. There is a new filing for a ETF, which will track GPU compute power's future contracts. You know, every day there's something new that we're seeing around how this bull market is evolving. I don't know if I like this. I'm just gonna be honest. I don't know. First of all, the idea that we're gonna have a futures and derivatives market over GPU compute, it makes sense conceptually, because if that's the new oil of our lifetimes, which it is, I 100% agree with that, then yeah, you should be able to trade futures on it. But then an ETF to be able to track the volatility of the futures contract, it just feels like there's a lot of products that are being built to speculate on this stuff more than not, which I guess is fine. It's not that big of a deal, but it's one thing we have to keep track of, like how excited is this market kind of getting. DRAM, by the way, the memory ETF, almost 10 billion in assets. It's the fastest to hit that mark than any other ETF in history. 43 days to get to 10 billion. It took IBIT 50 days to get there. So let's see how bad we get a dip today, if we even really do get that dip, if it continues, and we'll see if people end up buying more of DRAM. I am really curious when 930 hits, you know, by 940, 950, does this thing just reverse completely? Because every time you get a little bit bearish, at least over the past month, immediately we have a reversal. And maybe this ends up happening again today. Futures on compute is just futures on electricity. You know, that's a fair point. That is a fair point. At the end of the day, if power is necessary for all this, it might just end up being futures on electricity. Where's ARM trading at right now? Let's look at some of these semi names. ARM right there, that's down about 4%. Where's Qualcomm? I think that's under 200. That is just above 200. That's actually holding up. You would think if we're getting that ugly, this name would fall, but this name already fell a lot yesterday. So maybe people are buying it up immediately. So you would need to see some real selling at 930 to see these names get hit. SanDisk down 3, AMD is down 4, Bloom Energy is down 5, TSM is down 3, CrowdStrike's down 1, Ondas, it was up 20% yesterday. That's down 3. I think it'll end up like last Tuesday, down a lot and closes kind of flat. The thing is, it is Friday, right? So it's not quad witching day, but it is a day where options are expiring. And just given the amount of, the options volume has been unbelievable. Nokia was number 3 yesterday. Number 3 in the entire stock market for options contracts. Not Amazon, not Meta, Nokia. At almost 1 million contracts. Nvidia, Tesla, number 1 and 2. And then Ford was number 4. And then Ondas was number 5. It's like, okay, cool, I get it. These companies are starting to have a bigger narrative. Ondas with defense and drones, Ford because they're a new data center energy play, and Nokia because of 6G infrastructure. But still, like to be that speculated on in the top 5 is kind of incredible. And so you've got a lot of people using the derivatives market to try to understand more about these companies and play them. And you know, as of now, they're ignoring the broader bond market that we got. 30-year bonds are almost at all-time high. That is correct. They're above 5% as well. 10 years at basically 4.6. If we get the 10-year at 4.8, which is last April, that's when I think we have a little bit more of an issue. But you know, as of now, we are, I guess, not officially there. Okay, a couple other things that Trump said yesterday. Let me pull this up. So we saw Rubio's comments on Cuba yesterday, which again, it makes it seem like he's going to be going after Cuba, or the administration is thinking about Cuba. Here's what Trump had to say about that. And then we'll look at a couple of other things that we've got going on.
A virtual miracle. It's the hottest country anywhere in the world, and it is, yeah.
On a different subject, on Cuba, there's reporting that Raul Castro could be indicted by the DOJ, I believe. What does that mean?
Well, I don't want to comment on that. I'll let DOJ comment on it, but they need help, as you know. And you talk about a declining country. They are really a nation or a country in decline. So we're going to see. We have a lot to talk about on Cuba, but not maybe for today. What has done has been a virtual miracle.
It looks like the Trump administration is seriously thinking of Cuba, and here's more of what he had to say about Iran.
Because when you ask for favors, you have to do favors in return. We don't need favors. We've wiped out their armed forces, essentially. We may have to do a little cleanup work because we had a little month-long ceasefire, I guess you'd call it, but we have a blockade that's so effective. That's why we did the ceasefire. We really did the ceasefire at the request of other nations. Because when you
So again, we are still in that ceasefire, but we don't necessarily know if things are officially clearing up with the ceasefire, or at least leading to any level of meaningful negotiations. And I think that's also why the market, if you're tuning in just now, wondering why is the market red, Trump said the China H200 news was basically fake. That's why Nvidia's down. You got bond yields that are spiking pretty aggressively. Market doesn't love it. And you've got Trump basically saying we don't really have any progress on Iran in terms of the Chinese helping to get rid of what's happening in Iran, or like open the Strait of Hormuz. And you put all that together and we're red. S&P, we got 3 minutes until the market opens. There's a couple of green candles. Again, hard to be so skeptical in this type of a market where every dip gets bought. So we were at 738. It's at almost 741. If we open up and we flip green, it would be quite incredible. Micron's actually going down further though. Wow. Micron 745 to 736. S&P's actually trying to make a move up. Nvidia, also, there's a green candle on Nvidia. So I guess it's a little bit more selective. Some of these candles are going green. Others are a bit more red right here. And we're going to see when the market opens. Do you listen to the Drake album? Yes. I talked about it at the end of the show. I like the initial album. I didn't really like the two corresponding albums he released with it. I think he's in a deal with UMG and he needs to fulfill the deal by getting rid of 3 albums, like releasing 3 albums so that he can be an independent artist. And I think he just released a ton of albums yesterday. I didn't love it because I think he's just diluting a lot of his discography, but I don't know. That's my opinion. But the initial Iceman album I did like. So that's my thought about it. Chad is here. Chad is saying good morning. Chad, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to say good morning in our chat. For those that don't know, Chad is a big league guy now. He's over here at conferences and shit. I knew Chad when he wasn't going to conferences and on stages at SAP events, but now he's all big time and, decides to go be the keynote speaker rocking his Palantir merch. So thank you, Chad, for taking the time out of your busy life to say hello in the chat, because we know how much of a rock star you have become. But, Chad, you got to promise me. Do you want to talk about it? Yes. If you want to come on the market close, Chad, we'd love to talk about it. You got to promise me in the next 20 seconds, Mr. Chad, and for everyone else as well, that you do not press a button on your screen or your phone. And that button that cannot be pressed is the button that mutes the stream, baby, because it's time to open the stock market. All right, it is time to wake your asses up. Let's get into it. S&P 500, 741 on the open. It's not green, but it's not super red. Micron only down 4. There's a green candle coming up. Qualcomm green candle. Nvidia also green candle. Robinhood is down more aggressively. Robinhood broke above 81 yesterday. Is not able to hold even 80, unfortunately, at this moment. Bitcoin, oh my goodness. All right, there you go. Bitcoin almost 82 down to below 80. There you go. Clarity Act did pass yesterday. It has to go to the Senate, but if Bitcoin falls, that's not going to be helping a lot of these stocks. Space, Virgin Galactic, that's down 2%. Texas Instruments, that's down 2%. Rumble, down 8%. Delo, down 7%. Klarna, down 2.9%. Rich Tech Robotics, that's down 7%. SoFi, that's down 1.6%. Figma, are we getting a bigger pump? Figma, it's not the type of pump we saw yesterday. Yesterday, after hours, it was up 20%. So really, this 6% kind of feels like a sympathy pump unless it turns around. But Figma is at least getting something that's a little bit more green. SPY still red. Rocket Lab down 3. ARM is down 7. That's a little aggressive on ARM. Adobe, Salesforce, ServiceNow, Palantir. Actually, Microsoft is Palantir flipping green. All those are green. Palantir is very close to flipping green. So your software names, maybe a little bit of rotation. Maybe Lumentum down 7. That was at 1,100 the other day. That's at 938 right now. Where is VG? VG is up 6%. That is green as oil continues to go up. So that's good for VG. Everpure, that's basically flat. Circle, that's down 7%. You've got Intel, that's down 5%. I shorted Intel yesterday. I should have stayed in the short. I shorted at 116. I should have just left it. I would have made so much money if I just left the short, but I closed way too early. 109.87 right there. That's down 5%. Meta, that's down 1%. Tesla down 2.293%. HIMS down 1.36%. IONQ, the quantum names, down 7%. That's getting hit badly. Silver, that's down 7%. Poet back to 20. You know, to be honest, if they convince someone to buy their shares at $21, an institutional investor, I think that's kind of setting a floor to the stock, theoretically. So for those that are interested in Poet, I mean, maybe 21 is, or below 21 is the price to buy, but that stock down about 6%. It was down 17 in the morning. Hood getting crushed, down 4.2. That's red. Ondas is up 4%. Okay, so that reversed from yesterday. That's really good to see. Is the defense names following? Lockheed Martin is also kind of green. Kratos still down. So you got some defense names going the opposite direction. Nvidia down 2.75. S&P not really getting a candle above 740 as that continues to get hit. Microsoft, again, Bill Ackman took a stake in Microsoft over the past 90 days. He disclosed that this morning. And that is why I think Microsoft continues to get a little bit more love from the institutional side, and it should. I mean, it's Microsoft at the end of the day. You're going to, at some point, if the shares get too cheap, you're going to have some people either buy them or Microsoft's going to come in and buy them back. And at this point, it looks like Bill Ackman is stepping in. Cerebras down 5. Cerebras down 5. Nebius, did we flip green? We almost are flipping green. Not yet, but it's trying. Bloom Energy, did that flip green? Bloom is down badly, 8%. And again, down badly is contextual given this thing is up, 300% this year. So, every time it's down, you have to kind of zoom out on this. The VIX is up how much? Wow, VIX is up 9%, folks. VIX is up. VIX is up. Oil's up. Redwire's flat. Nvidia touched 226. Well below the VWAP as of now. Hood 77.89. Poet 3.5%. Lumentum again, 6.5% down. Staples are ripping. That is correct. Staples are ripping right here. Is Trump on Fox? Is he? Let me see. He might be calling with a Fox reporter. One quote is Trump to Fox, didn't underestimate anything on Iran. I didn't underestimate anything on Iran. We'll probably get some more quotes from him if he just talked to Fox right here. Palantir trying to flip, but not really. Nope, it did. 133.74. Okay, so your software names, it might be lying to us, but maybe. I mean, they're pretty much all green outside of a few. Oracle's more data center today, not software. Mongo's up. Adobe's up. ServiceNow, 93. Let's see if ServiceNow can break above 97. That's kind of that key level for it to then get to 100. Snowflake just went red. Datadog did go red. So some of these end up going red. Intuit up about 2.8% as well. Reddit's trying. Are we at 156? Reddit's at 155. Netflix is indeed up. Now, this should not be surprising. Every time we've seen the semis dump, this literally happened on Tuesday, Netflix pumped. I don't know what it is about the semis going down, but people decide to go pile up into Netflix. I think it's because they assume it's whenever people assume it's bad and recessionary, they think they want something that's not going to do bad in a recession. And the semis being down 2% on a day doesn't mean we're having a recession. But if that's the mindset of the market, Netflix is a thing that people won't cancel. And so that's why. But Netflix has been annoying me, dude. I can't watch Netflix anymore because they know that it's my mom's account. The same account she's had for 15 years. So now they're like, are you actually in this household? And I'm like, dude, this is so annoying. This is so stupid. And I'm definitely not getting my own account. So yeah, I kind of been locked out of Netflix for a while. 88.75, that's up 2%. Nebius, that's up 0.5%. Microsoft, that's up 1.4%. Ondas breaking over 12. Almost. It touched it. 12.12, which is nice. I mean, the rotation can be very fake. We got faked out on Friday on a rotation. You see Micron recover, then boom, all these stocks are going to go right back down. Same thing with the other semi names. Micron below 740. I don't know if it gets dip buyers until it gets back to the low 700s, but that's a lot to ask for today. You would need a real cascading drawdown here. In terms of the options market, I was looking at a couple stats yesterday on Micron in particular. You've got a lot of people selling puts on Micron, but you've also got a lot of people buying puts. And so there were two orders in particular. I'll try to get the exact stat. that was like someone sold like 95 million worth of puts and then someone bought like 400 million worth of puts. So there's just a lot of, it's not all bullish is what I'm trying to say. You have people playing both sides of this. Obviously, some people are hedging, but you do have earnings coming up in a month. So that's probably why they're thinking of that. It's just in March and April, the option flow was like purely bullish, $700 calls, $600 calls deep out of the money. And then it ended up getting there. So we're going to have to see how the market interprets this one. SPY loses 740. Loses 740. Lunar, that's up a little bit. Someone said AMD is up 7%. AMD is not up 7%. I don't know exactly how you interpret down 4.6%, up 7. I mean, I'm not the best at math, but I think that is a little different. But AMD down about 4.5%. Oscar is flat at 23.16. Nvidia is still down 4% right here. Nokia, are we getting a dump on this one? Nokia 1383. Well, it's a dump from the highs from yesterday at 1440, down 4%. Again, when this goes back to the conversation we were talking about a couple days ago. These stocks are in a bucket, right? So I bet you Corning's red today. Corning is, lo and behold, down 5% red today. I mean, if you're going to be bullish on one of these semiconductor names, picks and shovels plays, you kind of got to be bullish on all of them. And maybe yours might outperform a little bit, not go down as much as some of the others. But if the market's ready to go red on all these, the market's ready to go red on all these. Kind of like the software names all going down together. Marvell, that's also down 4%. Qualcomm, China Commerce Minister met with the Qualcomm CEO. Okay. The street probably knew that was coming out in the pre-markets. That's why this was one of the only semiconductor names that was green. I guess it's good they're meeting with the foreign minister of the largest manufacturing hub in the world. If Qualcomm's going to get deeper into manufacturing chips for other AI companies. Qualcomm 202.50 is what you've got right there. Navitas, is that down or up? That is down 9%. The China Commerce Minister also met with the Visa CEO. Okay, so you had a bunch of these business leaders meet with some of these people. World Health Organization, the third person who tested positive for hantavirus remains on board. Wow. The third person who died has tested positive for hantavirus. Her remains are on board the ship. Oh my. That's the other thing we're not talking about as much, the hantavirus, and hopefully we don't have to really discuss it. But yeah, that is also another narrative we've got. Reddit right there, 154.80, as that continues to get hit. Nubank, this one after earnings, down 6.7%. Grab getting wrecked as well, 348, down 2.4. Again, similar to a lot of these other names that if the theme is not there, they're not going to get any love. And quite frankly, if the rotation is not there, they're not going to get any love. Nubank, Grab, a lot of these international plays continuing to get hit. Pretty hard. Nubank had a great earnings too. I mean, so did Grab, to be honest. I didn't expect them to get hit like that, but this market does not care. Texas Instruments, that's down 1.5%. Zeta, again, the market doesn't care. Getting a little bit of love right here. They signed some partnership with Snowflake. I don't think the market cared, but it's down. Verizon, that's up a little bit. DRAM is down pretty heavily here, 7%, because of Micron, SK Hynix, Samsung, etc. I mean, look, if you believe in the memory story, this is your dip, right? Micron could reverse very easily back up to 800. Now, maybe we test the $700 lows, but we got to see. Palantir, are we going green? Okay, a little bit of green, but that's not just Palantir. It's Adobe and Salesforce and all these guys coming back up. So it's not horrible to see the software names. Nebius is holding as well. Nebius has been a champ this whole week. And this stock is just not really showed. Wow, CoreWeave's down 5 and Nebius is flat. Unbelievable, dude. Where's Iren then? Iren is down 5. That is actually crazy. You do not see that type of divergence. It's not even an earnings day or anything. CoreWeave and Iren down 6 now. Nebius just flipped green. I mean, that's impressive price action by Nebius. Now, maybe it's waiting to go red, but Even if it does go red, if it barely is red, then that's pretty incredible. Corning down 5.8, Qualcomm up a little bit. AMD down 4, Applied Digital, that's down. Yeah, Nebius did get upgraded across the day. Micron will test 707, then next support is 646. For us to go down to the low 700s, like we need a real sell-off today. Like 5% on a name as volatile as Micron, I don't think is a real sell-off yet. So we got to see some actual selling, and I don't know if we're going to get that much of it. Service now, if we do, maybe it goes into service now. That's up 4%. That is up 4%, as that is green. Okay, what other headlines do we have? What other headlines? Amid, are you buying more Corning? I would. So this is basically where I bought it at 2 days ago, 197, 198. So the next level for me would be closer to 180 if we actually get there. So we got to see if we get there. But no, not right now. You know, $1 away from my cost base is not really a place I would buy. And same thing for Micron, right? Like if you bought it at 710 on Tuesday, I mean, I don't think you need to buy it at 730. You know, force it to go lower than that for you to really DCA. But if you bought it at 810, like, yeah, at 740, you're getting a dip, right? And then the question is, how greedy do you want to be to get a better dip? But it is down for sure. Are you buying Ford? I am not buying Ford, although at Ford's down 6%. I do think there could be some speculative nature on Ford. Continue to go up. Did you sell your Nokia? No. In fact, I'll be coming out with a thesis post on it. It is still a trade for me, but there is a thesis that I think is somewhat reasonable to be able to go long. I don't know if it's a reason I will stay long for a long time, but it's enough of a reason to like take it more seriously. So I'll be coming out with that over the weekend, and we'll take a look at it. I mean, the most important thing is their AI networking business is growing 50%. So legacy business is growing 4%, but the thing that matters is growing 50%. They announced another deal with a hyperscaler. This thing's going to the moon. And I think that's what the street's thinking about. So again, it's contingent on that happening. That's basically what Qualcomm said to get the bid. And that's basically what Arista and Cisco said to get the bid yesterday. So we've got to see 116.43 right here, right now. Are you staying in grab? Yes, but I'm not adding to my grab for those that have been asking. There's just no point to add. It's kind of, the grab to me is like a lot of people's SoFi, right? It's a position that you bought a year ago. It's not doing anything. Net new capital doesn't need to go into it. You finish the position and you're now playing a waiting game. The question is this year, do I sell my grab? And I'm waiting for more. Like nothing in the earnings that I got told me to sell, right? The price action has been horrendous, just like SoFi price action has been horrendous, but you know, similar to Rock Lab, price action was horrendous. And then obviously Rock Lab, totally different company, but then the price action wasn't horrendous. So net new capital for me is not going into my losers. Like I haven't bought Hood, I haven't bought Grab. I bought Palantir because it went really low, and you know, Palantir doesn't give you dips that often. This year has been the opposite. This year, Palantir's giving you a lot of dips. Usually for the past 3 years, Palantir gave you 0 chances to. And see, that's the thing about stocks. It's like for 3 years, if you missed the Palantir run, you had to buy into strength. You had 0 chance to buy it. Like I mean, you had like the April tariff lows, but everything was on sale at that point, right? This year, Palantir's like, hey, I'm on sale. I'm on sale. Buy one, get one free. I mean, like, so. Hood is a loser. Yeah, this year it's a loser, 100%. Absolutely, it's a loser this year. There's many names this year that are the winners of last year, and Shopify was great last year, loser this year. So net new capital, I'm looking at different sectors, looking at different stocks, looking at different opportunities. And then your legacy positions are your legacy positions, right? You don't need to buy more of them. You hold them and keep them there. But again, at the end of the day, if you're looking at a position in your portfolio that makes you upset every day that you're looking at it and it hasn't run, it hasn't made a move, sometimes the coolest thing for your mental health is just get the hell out of it and move on and put it into something you have conviction in, because investing is a long game. Like, and I know these stocks have conditioned us to think they have to go up immediately, but a lot of times they don't. And I know the semiconductor stocks and these AI picks and shovels, $1 billion market caps turn into 10 billion market caps tomorrow. But again, that's also unreasonable to think you're going to find every single $1 billion company that turns into an $8 billion company, or you're going to find a $300 million market cap that goes to 700 million in some OTC exchange. Like, that's just not reasonable or practical. But a ServiceNow is reasonable or practical. And if you think that's a way better opportunity than a SoFi right now, and you really are getting annoyed of having a SoFi, then you switch, right? It's not that complicated. It's just you have to live with the decision of switching. I ran right there down 6 now, as that's continuing to get. Silver absolutely getting killed. 9% on silver seems a bit aggressive, which is obviously affecting copper right here. COPEX down 7. BM&R wrecked down 6%. Where is BTC? BTC wrecked. And that is why Hood is wrecked today as well. Again, this Clarity Act thing, I've been saying over and over, I don't really think it's going to change the narrative. Like, until we get liquidity in the macro to help Bitcoin, the Clarity Act is a catalyst. I just don't know if it's like a $100,000 catalyst for Bitcoin. GDX, that's down 6% as well. Thoughts on Navitas? I really have to understand what this company does. I know they have an Nvidia partnership. They hired some Broadcom executive the other day, but I just don't have the stomach for the volatility of it going up and down 10% every other week. Some stocks, they do nothing. Other stocks, they go up and down literally every week by double-digit percentage points. Like Micron, are we about to lose 730? We did lose 730, 728. We're going to see if that one continues to go down. We got some SpaceX coverage on CNBC. Let's pull this up. That IPO will be happening likely in June, was talked about last night. And that's also going to need a lot of liquidity for the markets to comprehend it.
Flip its S1 public as early as next week. And I'm told they're aiming for a slightly longer timeline between disclosing the prospectus and launching their roadshow, just to give investors a little more time to study up. And that is because Elon Musk's rocket company is readying what's expected to be a record share sale. Reports say that SpaceX is aiming to raise upwards of $70 billion, which is more than double Saudi Aramco's IPO from 2019, which is the current record holder. I'm hearing that the June 8th target to kick off the roadshow is still the plan, with a debut anticipated in mid-June, although sources caution that, those plans are still in flux. They may still change. I've heard from several sources close to the deal, though, about the ways bankers and lawyers are looking to tap these new and different types of investors to help fill such an enormous order book. While they do plan to allocate to retail, it may not be as tilted toward, say, the Robinhoods or the SoFis of the world as Reuters had earlier reported. One source told me that they're looking toward retail investors abroad, for example, through brokerages and brokers in places like the UK, Canada, and Japan. The view is that this strategy will bode better to cultivate longer-term holders. I'm told,
bro, Elon is trying to get the South Koreans to be degenerate. That is what that actually means. They told CNBC, oh, UK, Japan, Canada. What they're actually trying to do is get the South Koreans to go degen on SpaceX, okay? Because back in 2018, Tesla was the #1 held stock in South Korea, and we saw what happened over the past couple of years. Like, that is crazy. But if this is not the headline that tells you they are trying to pump it, I don't know what it is. And that's not a bad thing. That's their job. They have to pump it. It is up to us as individual investors if we want to engage in that. But the fact that they're scouting international brokers for whatever reason, maybe they think they're more sophisticated than, or less sophisticated than US investors to hold on to this stock. It's kind of interesting to see how they're trying to get liquidity for this.
the strategy is similar to what we saw with Cerberus yesterday, this idea of letting retail be the marginal buyer on day one, bidding the stock higher in its debut rather than giving significant allocation and risk more flipping. We saw, kind of that pendulum swing the other direction with a lot of the crypto IPOs of recent years. And so there's this thought process of being a little bit more deliberate with who and where the retail investor allocation is going, guys.
Elon's trying to create international bag holders, dude. He's trying to spread the bag holding across the world. Cerberus just created some international bag holders. Shout out to whoever bought this thing at 380 yesterday. There you go, 280. 10% down the day after. Like, literally, if you bought the Cerberus IPO and you're down 10 or 20% in a day, you have no one to blame but yourself. Like, absolutely no one. I mean, like, I get the whole market's red, but this was the most obvious name to go down the day after an IPO it's too hot. It got too exuberant on this name. Are you kidding me? 300 times sales? Really? For one OpenAI contract? Are you kidding me? 20 billion from OpenAI is the reason you should be worth 5x that in market cap? When they're not even going to give it to you in 1 year, it's going to be spread out over multiple years. It's not like 20 billion in revenue in 1 year. I mean, come on, dude. This is like, they don't have a supply chain anywhere near as structured as Nvidia. I'm not saying it's a horrible company, phenomenal company. I know a lot of people actually that were in the private rounds or Cerebras over the past 5 years, but the valuation was stupid yesterday. It was really stupid. Cypher down 9%. And again, this is what we were talking about this yesterday. Brad Gerstner, I bet you he made some baggies yesterday. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. When they pump it on CNBC to that extent, and they have the CEO join an investor, and they go on to talk to the media about how amazing this thing, like, it's a pump. It's an obvious pump. It's not that complicated. And I hope it recovers, but I kind of hope it doesn't recover to the levels it was at yesterday, because that's just way too much euphoria. And if it does, then I guess the euphoria continues. Silver still getting hit. The 2-year yield almost at 4.1%. My goodness. 10-year, where are we at? Wow, 4.579. All right, it's going to get ready to cross 4.6. Nebby is still green. I bought at 333, sold at 370, 4K profit. See, that's the way to play it. That would have been the way to play Cerebras yesterday. But I just, to imagine a retail investor being like, I'm going to throw $10,000 at $375 at Cerebras because I heard on CNBC this is the next best thing. It's like, okay, 10 years from now, maybe 5 years from now, that works out. Maybe 10 days from now if we keep pumping. But like the valuation there is just, and I wonder if that's what happens to SpaceX, to be honest. I really wonder if SpaceX ends up flipping and, they have a good day or two, and then people just realize, why am I paying $2 trillion for this? Like, could that be something that happens? Okay, SanDisk flipping a bit green. Remember, SanDisk was down a lot more aggressively than the other memory names last night. So it actually makes sense that this one's reversing a little bit. If the other names reverse, Micron's trying 727 to 736, but not that much. Nebius, this is just unstoppable. Palantir goes red. Salesforce still holding on to green, a little bit of a red candle. Some of your software names looking potentially like they could flip. Snowflake just went green as well. Marvell still down 2. Where's Apple? Yeah, Intel's down 6%. Apple 298. I mean, again, Intel's multiple. I don't get it. I understand all the partnerships and the qualitative reasons to be excited about this, but they took Intel to a $700 billion market cap. Do we think Intel deserves that? I don't know, dude. I don't know. Does Cerebras deserve a $100 billion market cap? And again, maybe Cerebras gets to 500 soon, but not to mention 90% of the float is locked up. So it's literally a manufactured squeeze because they actually let go of the float, which, by the way, they will eventually let go of the float. And one random day, it'll be down 5% after they unlock all the shares. I have one friend who's been in it for the past 3 years, and he was texting me yesterday, and he's just waiting for a 6-month lockup to be done, and then he's out. So, and you do have a lockup period, and once that's over, you will have some more selling right there. AMD 434, that continues to go red. Figma up 11. Okay, so that's getting a little bit more of a pump. Is Intel doomed? Intel's not doomed at all. Intel has so many tailwinds and catalysts. It's never been about the story. It's about the numbers here. Are the numbers making sense for some of these names? And for Micron, it absolutely makes sense. It's freaking cheap if you believe the memory story is not cyclical. For Intel, I don't think the numbers make any sense. I think the story is amazing, but at 130, I don't know if that is that much of a premium you put on that story, especially because there's an execution risk, right? Like one of the reasons Nvidia gets a premium is because their supply chain is the best supply chain in the world, so they can actually execute the process of building and delivering all their products so that they can get these massive growth rates. But they also have a lot of leverage with their suppliers. I don't necessarily know if Intel has that. Amit, at what percentage would you buy a US 30-year yield? That's a great question. I think it's less about me. SanDisk going red, by the way, again. Unless oil comes down, let's just look at the chart of the US 30-year. The highest we got to over the past 5 years was, wow. Okay, let me show this. So we are basically at the highs. October 2023, we were at 5.08. October 23rd, 2023, 5.08. We were at 5.119. So right now is where, if I'm Trump, I would want people to buy this thing so that the yield can come down. I mean, how much higher does it have to go? The last time it was above this number, I mean, again, even in 2007, we were pushing 5.12. Wow. So April 2007, we were at 5.12. Today we're at 5.118. So basically the same. Before that, you had to go to 2002. We were at 5.8. And then obviously before that, you had to go to 1987, October. People know what happened around then. You had basically at 9%. I don't think we're going to those levels. I think that would be catastrophic, but I think eventually, Trump will have to do something to get people to buy up these yields. Service now getting a bit of a red candle, but it's still up 2.76%. SPY losing 740 again. Micron fighting with 730. Fighting with 730. Okay, did anyone buy any dips? Anyone in the chat buy anything today? Or did anyone do anything different? Did Brad lose his money? Well, Brad got Cerebras he bought it. I don't know, his cost base is probably like $30 or something. I'm just making the number up. But even if this thing goes down, that's the thing. Gerstner can wait for it to go down 50% and still sell and make a multiple on his money. But if you're buying it at 300, you can't afford that, right? If it goes down 50%, you lose a lot of your money, which is not the best. Lewis says, you're the best. I've been watching you and Steve since July. It's going to be 1 year of investing. I appreciate you guys. Lewis, congrats, man. At 22, the fact that you care about investing is a big deal. So thank you for being part of the show, and thank you for keeping up with the content. Okay, I see some new banks. I see some golds. I see a little bit of grabs. I see puts on CoreWeave. I sold some Corning, some Synaptics. I sold a put on EWY. Irwin bought some ASTS. Why not? 78.50. That's down 5%. I see some Nokias. I see some Qualcomm. So today is going to be, unless we end up recovering today, Micron losing 730 now, 726. This might be one of the first red days we had this week, which means we had 2 red days. 1 red day recovered, 1 red day. We'll see what happens by the end of the day. Maybe didn't recover, which begs the question on if we're still in buy the dip mode. Because if we're not in buy the dip mode and people are buying the dip, not just retail institutions, it's going to get ugly, because then people are going to be selling much lower than what they bought at if we start actually falling. But if we're still in buy the dip mode, then I would imagine either today we recover or by early next week. We do have Nvidia on Wednesday. So that's going to be important. Intel getting destroyed. 7% now. Where's Poet? Poet is down 15%. Bought more Adobe and SoFi. Evan says double down on SoFi. The 2 software names I am thinking of just throwing some money at is ServiceNow and Shopify. Like, I know their narratives are not amazing, but I really do think, I feel like Microsoft is probably the most safest, the most safe software name you can buy right now. Shopify is a little bit more speculative than the Salesforce of the world. The ServiceNow narrative seems to be pretty intact, unless you just think their growth will collapse. But they're still growing 20%. It's not like they're not growing. Like Adobe's growing 7%. You could have some beef with that, but ServiceNow 22% on a $3 billion basis. Not easy to do. Ford down 8%. But those 2 have a bit more of my attention. I'd rather have Meta than Microsoft. I agree. Chad says the HVAC company. Yes, Chad. The HVAC company. ServiceNow. SAP 167. Josh Kushner put in 100 million in Shopify. It's about, I agree, dude. I think I'm not going to fade Kushner on this. 100 million. They don't pick public stocks. They never do that. They only do late stage and private equity. What are they doing? And they must have thought the valuation is so compelling. Like, I want to get some details on why they made that buy. But I feel like Shopify will be around for a while. SOX, this is short semis, right? Yeah, that's up 13% today. Stock-based comp is an issue for software. I agree, but I think a lot of the issues are priced in at this point. Like, I get it. Stock-based comp is bad. Bloated workforce is bad, but man, I mean, these are companies that are doing a lot of cash flow. Salesforce trades at 10 times free cash flow. Not the biggest fan of Salesforce, but at some point you imagine there's some institutions that step in and say, okay, this is getting kind of stupid. Like, unless we think Salesforce is completely going out of business, which maybe they are. Maybe AI is just that good. I don't know. But you might see some level of excitement there. Penguin, that's down 5.6. This one was at 55 this week, down to 46. So a lot of these names getting hit a little harder. SoFi below 10 becomes interesting. Do we really think SoFi could go below 10? I don't think that happens, dude. I really don't. Like, I'd probably be a bigger buyer below 10. I do not see it. I mean, talk about institutions thinking it's stupid. Then again, the institutions do hate SoFi. Lumentum down 7, ARM down 7. Rocket Lab down 5. HIMS, did we go a little green? HIMS is a little green. Taiwan Foreign Ministry, taking note of Trump's relevant remarks. U.S. arms sales are a security commitment explicitly set up by the U.S. in the Taiwan Relations Act, also a form of joint declaration against regional threats. Since Trump took office, senior U.S. officials repeatedly reaffirmed U.S. policy towards Taiwan has not changed. To date, the U.S. admin has approved arms sales to Taiwan twice. Yeah, obviously they put out that statement because of China's comments on Taiwan. AMD 426, that one's falling. Okay, when did we start reversing? It was around 11:30, if I'm not wrong, on Tuesday we started reversing. So we got about an hour and a half to go if we're going to follow the Tuesday playbook. It could also just be Friday options expiring, to be honest. It could also be the whole day's ugly just because of those options expiring, but I don't know. We have to see how ugly it gets. Celsius, that's up a little bit as well. VG goes green. Market goes down. VG goes up. They also had a good earnings, though. Amit, what do you think of all the giveaways and promos Hood is doing? I'm long Hood, but I have mixed feelings about the consistent promos they are having to run. I think it's nothing to worry about. At the end of the day, they are very innovative when it comes to marketing and customer adaptation and getting attention. But the bigger problem with Hood this year is I think, and Vlad did say on the earnings that we're going to have an event soon about agentic brokerages. I think they need a new product that gets people really excited. The credit card didn't get people excited. Robinhood Legend, again, you guys know how I feel. They really need to, like, there's some issues, bro. Now that I've been using TradingView more, I can understand why someone wouldn't stop using TradingView for Legend. Like, I get it. Now that I'm actually using TradingView, there's some stuff they got to fix up on that. Micron losing the 725 range. It lost 720 for a second. And then 3, it's like there's nothing this year that's getting people to be super excited about Hood. And I'm not saying every single year you have to have a super innovative feature, but the Cortex is just not like a thing. The LLM financial stuff is not really enticing. Like Robinhood Social, I don't know if people use it or if people are compelled. So like, to me, they just have to introduce something that's cool. And they have an event coming up with crypto in the UK. I think Vlad said they were going to have another event around agents soon. So I think they need to do some stuff like that. But it's just not their year. Sometimes you're just not going to have the best year. And then again, prediction markets are cool, but they're not the only player in town when it comes to prediction markets. Kalshi's crushing. Like, Kalshi is absolutely crushing. And I think they've kind of diverted away from even being reliant on Robinhood at this point. So prediction markets are good for them when it comes to making money, but it's not like this brand new thing that's going to get the street to be more excited. Now, that does not break the Hood thesis. The Hood thesis is that they are going to be a generational financial play in regards to a suite of products that taps into everyone's financial life. And the innovation that I believe Vlad will pioneer is going to get people to continue using their products, and that's how they're going to grow the business. That is my thesis. That thesis is not broken. But that doesn't mean that thesis goes in a straight line every year, right? Some years where it doesn't happen. Amit, what do you mean the Robinhood credit card is good? The gold 3% card is good. The platinum card, I think even Vlad acknowledged the pushback was legit, because on the earnings call, they were like, hey, are you guys going to do anything about the platinum card? And he said, we've heard a lot of feedback. We're going to make it a lot better. Like, there was a lot of fine print that people pointed out, and they were like, this is not that compelling if you really look at the fine print. And so they acknowledged it themselves. The good thing about Vlad is he can acknowledge when things aren't going the best and immediately pivot, because he's a founder at the end of the day, and he he's been through what it takes to build a company, and not everything goes up into the right immediately. But I think when they adapt on that, that'll be important. Still on the waiting list for the gold card, and that's another reason, people are not the happiest about it. Feels like a worse Amex. Yeah, that's also one of the critiques I've heard. Cerebras down 7, Navitas down 12. What's up today? What's like really green? Like what stock is actually VG? Outside of VG, Max 7s are all red except Microsoft. SAS, I mean, you got 2 to 3% moves, but nothing explosive. Space, give me something that's up at least 5%. Rock Labs down 6. Give me something that's up at least 5%. AppLovin is up 2. IBM is up $1. Stupid Figma is great. Okay, Figma's not stupid. They had a great earnings. They deserve to be up a lot more than this, in my opinion. But they are down a lot. My blood pressure is up. Okay, that's definitely something that could be up. The VIX, that is fair. VIX is up 10. Gemi's up 16. Gemini Space Station, that is up 16. Again, small cap. Atlassian, this thing is still down 40% for the year, but that's up almost 5. What about, dude, we haven't talked about TLT in forever, because obviously the rate cut thesis has been destroyed for like the past 2 years. But TLT was supposed to be one of the better plays over the past few years. It's just inflation sucks. Inflation has not helped. Snapchat's up 1.25. When are they going to do something about this company, dude? I know they started the layoffs, but Snapchat, man. This thing has not really been fixed. You got the energy secretary right here. Let's see what he is saying and how he's kind of navigating, or at least his stance on how the administration is navigating what's happening in energy. Let's pull this up for a sec.
Just drives home the point. It's just very difficult. And down a couple. This just.
Joe, thanks for saying that. People just don't understand that. The world runs on hydrocarbons. It did when I was born. It does today. It will when I die. We just simply don't have replacements for most all of the uses of hydrocarbons. In fact, in the United States, we're at a record high. 74% of U.S. energy comes from oil and natural gas. 74%. Now, England's got us. 75% in England, 76% in Italy. But yeah, wealthy nations run on oil and gas. Emerging low-income or middle-income nations tend to run on oil and coal. And they're starting to put natural gas into their energy mix as well. But yeah, the $10 trillion on wind, solar, and batteries got us to 3% of global energy. And they're just in the electricity sector. So yeah, we have too much noise around small stuff in the energy system. The prosperity of Americans, jobs, and opportunity, they depend on what the country runs on. That's oil and gas. And after oil and gas in importance is coal, because it's an industrial fuel.
Okay, that was pointless. All he's saying is oil and gas is important. It's like, yeah, we know that. The problem is you guys inflated the crap out of it with this war. Like, yeah, we get it. No one's trying to, Democrats are not in office. We're not having debates about solar panels every day. But you guys aren't getting the price of this very important commodity down, which is why people are concerned, to say the least. S&P back up to 740. We're trying to hold 740. GameStop also is up 1%. Is up 1%. Okay, so, I mean, this would be the moment. I see a few green candles. If we're going to reverse, we would try to do it right now. Micron, dude, wow, it hit 719. Okay, so back up to 729. So the buyer stepped in below 720. We'll see if this thing continues to go down. Are the volumes low today? Volume on SPY is... No, volumes are not low. That's 10 million shares in 40 minutes. That's not low volume. I wouldn't say that's low volume. Past few days when it was low, like a few weeks ago, it was like 3-4 million shares. This is a decent chunk of volume coming in. At least that's what it feels like. So we got to see right here. You may prefer Meta over Microsoft, but I'm happy to hold more Microsoft today. I think both. I just don't even think these are worth even debating, Microsoft and Meta. Like, it sounds kind of silly. Like, we're questioning Microsoft and Meta. So I don't think there needs to be a pitch. I don't think there needs to be a super compelling thesis. I mean, we can theorize about it, but it's Microsoft and Meta at the end of the day. Like, these companies are just too important. Now, maybe there's an opportunity cost against the picks and shovels plays that are going crazy, but see, here's the thing. Let's say we actually do get a little bit of a drawdown, 5% of the S&P, which would take down all these picks and shovels plays 30 to 40%. Like, it's very clear in my mind. If we get a 5% hit on the S&P, these picks and shovels plays are going downtown. I wonder how humbling that's going to be for everyone in these plays that's like super bowled up on it. And I wonder how much people are going to then buy the dip on those plays. Like, if Micron goes back to 600, I mean, it becomes really cheap, even cheaper than it is today, obviously. And I don't know, it gets more compelling, even to someone who believes in the cyclicality narrative. But I also wonder if that is a panic moment for all the people that bought at 750, 800, and were like, oh my goodness, like how could I have forgotten that? Yeah, memory's cyclical. Why am I in this thing? Why am I not buying more Microsoft? And so it'll be very interesting if we get that. But we have to have that drawdown to even see if that reaction happens. Until then, it's just buy the dip. And buy the dip continues to work for buying the dip. Rocket Lab, 127.50. That one's starting to recover from 124 as well. Did AMD bounce? AMD bounced, yep, off 427, above the VWAP now, 436. It's above the 9 EMA as well, 436.30. This one actually looks like it has a little bit more strength than not. Nvidia, though, not really following. Nvidia, well, kind of bounced off 224. 224. Dude, that VWAP, it's legit. If you're a beginner trader, it's legit. It's one of the simplest ways to at least help architect how you think about a stock price's movement. And the distance from the VWAP is the most important thing, especially if you're trading, right? How far are you below it? Because then your short is probably too extended and you can't really take the short. I mean, you can, you just have more risk. If you're far above it, then you have a lot of risk as well because you can go long, but it's extended. If you bounce off of it multiple times, the move above the 9 EMA after you bounce is usually the long. And then same thing on the opposite side on the short. I'm going to live trade one day for everybody. I'm still trying to get good at it. It's been like 2 weeks, more like 3 weeks, but I feel like I want to do it for at least 2-3 months before I do it live. I feel like it would be fun. ServiceNow, that's up 3.13%. You're pronouncing it the wrong way. Of course I am. Of course. Like how would I not be pronouncing that the wrong way? Where would you buy GLW? We got to get to the 180s or below. I mean, this is where I bought it a couple days ago. This was the dip on Corning from 213 to 197 on Tuesday. So this is not really compelling here. Same thing with Micron. I mean, look, it's right back to 737. Like, this thing's got to get to the low 700s for it to be a really, really exciting dip. It's still a dip. Like, Corning is still a dip. It's just not super exciting. Learn the anchored one. It gives a better picture. Yeah, like I've been working with ChatGPT, and right now she's like, you need to have a system, and that system needs to be based on 1 or 2 metrics. The worst thing traders do is they get like 50 different indicators, and they confuse the hell out of themselves when they're trying to trade. And so there's a lot of shit I don't know about, but I'm trying to get 1 or 2 things down really well, have some successful trades navigating it. And then we can, add more stuff to. I think the point of trading is to eventually not need indicators, right? But you're using the indicators as a way to help you understand price action. You should be able to look at a chart and just know, or have at least a bias of where things are going up or down, and then you can use some indicators to help. But the indicator shouldn't be the crutch to make a decision. Ondas 1113, Oscar, that's flat. Nokia back to 1390. Let's see if she reclaims 14. Oh boy, Trump to Fox may not approve Taiwan weapons. See, This is why we spent time talking about the Taiwanese issue yesterday. Like, that was the biggest headline to me out of everything that came from China. The headline was, for those that missed it, China didn't really give a shit about talking about Iran. They cared about talking about Taiwan. And I think to an extent, they saw what Russia did with Ukraine. They saw the United States and what we're doing in Iran. And they're like, it's our turn to go do something that we've been wanting to do for a while. And I think basically they told Rubio and Trump and Bessent, hey, we're going to reunify and we need you guys to not do anything. And obviously the United States can't say, oh, sure. But the United States also can't say, well, we will retaliate immediately. So it's a really awkward position. And so now you got Trump saying, we may not sell Taiwan weapons. But I think he's saying that strategically. I don't think he's saying, yeah, we're going to give up Taiwan. I think he's in a tough position, just like every president has been in a tough position on this. Trump to Fox, U.S. policy on Taiwan has not changed. Trump to Fox on Taiwan. If we keep it as it is, China is okay with it. I think Trump is lying about that. I do not think China is okay with their policy. And then Trump says, I want China to cool down on Taiwan. Yeah, dude, that is going to be the defining conflict of our lifetimes, in my opinion. It's everything's setting up for what's going to happen when China makes their move. I feel like it's going to happen in our lifetimes. I really do. And it's not me who thinks this. If you listen to any of the Taiwanese politicians, they have always said it's not a question of if, it's a question of when China goes after it. Intel got a little spike off that headline. I mean, that's part of the reason the Intel thesis continues to be the thesis outside of the numbers. Is we need an alternative. Trump on Taiwan, not looking to travel 9,500 miles to fight war. Trump to Fox discourages Taiwan going independent. I'm not sure exactly what he means by that. Dude, it would kind of suck if we're in the middle of a generational bull market. Look at Micron back up to 745. There's your green candle. Okay, so this is the moment. Green candles across the board. This is the moment. Either they get rejected or we are going, maybe not green for the day, but we're definitely getting rid of the red we saw. Hood getting a little bit of a bounce. Bitcoin, a little bit of a bounce. Let's see over the next 5 minutes. There's your candle right there on Bitcoin. Can we flip green? It would kind of suck in a generational bull market if China invades Taiwan. Like, I don't know. People think maybe we have 5-10 more years of this bull market. Maybe that's too optimistic. Maybe 3 to 4. But like, that would, I think, hurt the bull market a little bit. All right, we are flipping. Can we hold this flip? 741.93. Can we flip? What do we think? Rejection or flip? I don't know, dude. I kind of want to say we're flip. I mean, these candles look healthy, but there's not really a reason to flip outside of the market deciding, okay, it's time to buy the dip on a Friday. I don't know. It's already priced in. We think the S&P has priced in China invading Taiwan. I don't know, bro. Maybe Intel priced that shit. Intel definitely is priced in that. Yeah, that and more, to be honest. But I don't know if the S&P priced that in. Because I just don't know what the U.S. would do, right? Like, do we get into a war with China? Like, they supply all of our shit. How do we get into a war with China? Like, you don't need to be a student of geopolitics to be like, oh, the country that supplies 80% of our stuff. This is why when Trump was pursuing his independence from China around tariffs, like, he made sense conceptually. It's just practically, all of our shit comes from there because we don't have people that want to work for 50 cents an hour in a Foxconn factory in the United States. We also have something called minimum wage laws, right? Like, we subsidize the United States and the West by allowing people to work under those conditions in China. That's just how it is. That's how your iPhone gets made. And so it's impractical. And China has a lot of leverage because of that. Because if we get into a war with them, they supply a lot of the raw materials that go into our weapons and ammunition. Like, how do you go into a war with China? And so I think they have all the leverage, or I think they have all the leverage. But the U.S. also doesn't want to let them just take Taiwan. So it's a very complicated issue. Okay, Micron just got rejected at 746. There's the rejection. Let's see if it goes back down to the VWAP. It's rejecting the 9 EMA. Do we lose the VWAP here? In that case, it's a short. Figma's up 17. Okay, so market's finally showing them some love in their earnings. Wow, Figma, okay, almost getting back to where it was last night at 24. Let's see. Can't trust the rejection. That is correct. So I don't trade during the show. So I've been practicing trading at like 11:30 to 1. So, there's some people that love trading the market open because that's when like the trade, that's when all the volume happens, which is fair. But I can't obviously do that. So I do get to see patterns by the time I start looking at trades and setups. And you can't trust every rejection. You have to really see if it happens multiple times and then see if the candles actually hold beneath or above your indicators, in this case, the VWAP, to feel if it's a long or a short. But that did get rejected pretty heavily at 746. Now we got to see if Micron can get back above there. S&P still 742. Google is at 40. 400. Google's at 399. Apple is 299. Apple trying to get back to 300. The pattern is short grab every day. The problem is some of these stocks aren't liquid enough to even go short or long on because they don't move enough. Like I've tried to trade SoFi, but honestly, like after the morning open, it trades like 3 cents throughout the rest of the day. There's not really a lot of trades to do there. Netflix also going down as semis are going up. Do I sell everything? Well, if you like paying taxes, then yeah. That would be a good thing to do. It would help fund our economy. Trade MUU, it's extremely volatile. I have not traded this one yet, but yeah, I mean, if you're looking for a quick move up or down, double Micron is pretty volatile. In all seriousness, though, I don't think this is a sell everything, get out of the market type of situation. But it's a red day after a lot of green days. Like it is, and it's a red day that's not even really holding seriously red. Like Micron could barely stay below 720 before it bounced. So I think long and strong thesis is intact. It's just, you can't deny it's a little weird with the bond market screaming like it is. And I think the best thing is if the market consolidates, because I think what's really freaking people out is every day we're just going up and up and up, even though, theoretically we shouldn't be. But if we consolidated, that would be a bit more reasonable for people to understand and not get so freaked out every time the market just ignores every last piece of bad news that we have. Shy Guy, thanks for super chat. In my opinion, U.S. mining regulation is one of the main reasons it's cheaper to go through China. Yeah, and it's just, I don't know if Trump's negotiated any meaningful change to that policy with the Chinese. Like, I don't really know what we got out of this meeting again. It seems like we got a lot of stalemates around Taiwan. We didn't get anything on Iran. Trump literally said he didn't like the Chinese proposal. There wasn't any news. I mean, they bought a bunch of Boeing jets. I guess that was the deal. It seems like every time we go to China, they buy some. Every time we visit a foreign nation, they buy some Boeing jets. It's like the one thing they know that the Americans are good at making airplanes. Like, yeah, we'll buy some of that. But that's what we got. Here's a clip of Jensen in China.
Jensen, how do you like China?
I love China.
Yeah? Do you plan to visit? Jensen, how?
Dude, Jensen's such a rock star. Such a rock star. Have you looked into Rackspace? I've not looked into it that much, but Jason obviously told us about it a couple weeks ago. It's been a monster in the data center space. Sub-billion-dollar company a couple weeks ago. Now it's 1.76. They had an AMD partnership. So that one is moving. Was down today, but it was up yesterday. SoFi down 2.5. Robinhood down. Bitcoin back below 80. That candle was rejected. Micron, wow, back below 740. Okay, so these candles are getting hit, folks. They're not clean retracement. Same thing with AMD. Peaked at 439, now starting to go a bit more red. Yeah, Jensen absolutely is a rock star in China. I feel like if Jensen walked down the street in the United States, I'm not like a lot of people would recognize him, but I wonder how many people, like Elon, I feel like would be recognized immediately. But like, I don't know. I feel like if Jensen's just walking down the street in Vegas, I wonder how many people recognize him. I feel like it's Elon. Is like if Karp was, I don't think a lot of people recognize Karp. Like you have to like actually know something about Palantir to recognize Karp. Mark Zuckerberg would be, everyone knows him. A lot of people still don't know what Nvidia is or what it does or the fact that it's behind the modeling for ChatGPT, right? It's the basis for it. Only nerds would recognize him. I would recognize. I would go crazy if I saw him. No one would know. Same with J Powell. Yeah, dude. J Powell. Could you imagine seeing him at your local grocery store? Like, oh my goodness, Mr. Powell, I'm such a fan. He'd be like, dude, get a life. Like, get a life. It's like, I stream you every time you're at the FOMC and you say good afternoon and you cough and you have the purple tie. Like, I wonder. By the way, dude, 2 days ago before the market opened, this is part of the reason I was late. I walked downstairs to go to my car to get something. 3 seconds. I can't make this up. 3 seconds. I'm walking outside and someone recognized me. It was so crazy. It's like, can I get a picture? And I was like, this is actually surreal. Like, this is actually crazy. And I was like, how long have you been watching the show? He's like, you have a show? He's like, I just know you from Twitter. I was like, okay, that's cool too. So some people have no idea that I do a market open, market close, but he's seen some of my tweets. But just so random, right? Like the only people that would recognize me on the street are nerds that actually keep up with the market. That's what I would do with Powell. I would definitely get his autograph. Definitely, I would get his autograph. I just wonder if he would be weirded out. He'd be like, you actually listen to my press conferences? Like yeah, dude. Like, listen to everything you say. You lost me a lot of money. You made me a lot of money. By the way, it wasn't transitory, right? Right? And then he would have the most awkward conversation. You really messed up on that one, ChatGPT kind of saved your ass there, buddy. I wouldn't say that. That'd be embarrassing. Oh my gosh. Where's AMD? Are we still green? Or sorry, still red? Yeah, 432 got rejected again. Dude, I would love to have Powell. Oh, so speaking of basis points, we talked about this on the pod, but pod's been doing well, been working hard, been growing it. We have been reached out to by 2 CEOs who want in person to come on the podcast, and they are both scheduled for next Wednesday. So next Wednesday is going to be a crazy day. We got Nvidia earnings. We got the market open. In between the market open and Nvidia earnings, we have one big CEO coming to the studio. And then after Nvidia earnings, we have another big CEO coming to the studio. So that day is going to be absolutely crazy. I think you guys will really enjoy the 2 episodes. It's not like Jensen or Elon or anything like that. So it's nothing that crazy. But they are 2 CEOs of 2 stocks retail really cares about. I'll say that. And I think you guys will enjoy it. So should be fun. I'm really looking forward to the conversations. And I think it'll hopefully be some decent content. It's not the Ondas CEO. It's not. I don't want to give it away. I actually want it to be a surprise. So I'm not going to say yes or no on anything, but just know it's not the biggest CEOs in the world, but still CEOs that definitely have a lot of retail money in their stocks. Nebius 225, that continues to go green. AXTI, is that moving? Another photonics play that is up 5%. China news agency, China and the U.S. agreed to establish trade and investment councils addressing each other's concerns about market access for agricultural products and promoting the expansion of bilateral trade under the framework of reciprocal tariff reductions. Okay. Renaissance Technologies drops their 13F. Here are the biggest changes. They manage $70 billion. Okay. Top buys, Apple. This is all Q1, $781 million. Nvidia, 278 million. Lindy, L-I-N, I don't know that company, up 258 million. Broadcom, 245 million. Alamos Gold, 227 million. JP Morgan, 220 million. Top sells. Netflix, 673 million. Tesla, 534 million. Procter & Gamble, 428 million. Costco, 578 million. Microsoft, 329 million. And then Palantir, 542 million. Those are your top buys and sells by Renaissance Technologies. Interesante. They got rid of Tesla, Palantir, Netflix, Microsoft, Costco. They loaded up on Apple, Nvidia, JP Morgan, Broadcom. So you got a different swing right there. Gary, thanks for the super chat. Currently traveling around Paris and listening while sightseeing. Appreciate what you do. Gary, thanks for being here. I want to go to Europe. I don't know if it's going to be this summer, but hopefully I have a Europe tour eventually. And so enjoy your time in Paris, man. Hopefully you get to do some sightseeing and enjoy it there. Shopify getting up to 99. So those are the buys and sells of Renaissance. Again, this is a quant-based fund. They're not really directionally bullish or bearish. They're more so, I mean, they kind of are, but they're more so rooted in quantitative strategies as the basis to guide their fundamental decision-making. Micron 737. But those are positions they've had for a long time. Shopify 99.17. As that's starting to break out a little bit. Oh yeah, we need Leopold update. So again, Leopold, the guy who left OpenAI, started a fund, and then he just invested in pretty much every multi-bagger of this year. SanDisk, Bloom Energy, Intel, etc. His 13F should be dropping either within the next few hours or later tonight. And then we're going to see what happens. Are you in end phase? I'm not in end phase. Are you buying Melly? Melly is interesting. Again, I feel like this is like a buy and don't hold or buy and don't touch type of stock. Just let it compound in Latin America. But I don't understand their business that well. I mean, look, I think this will be a phenomenal company 10 years from now, but I need to understand what is going to actually bring their operating margins up to speed. They don't have an AWS. I believe it's the fintech business, which is probably an easy reason to trust that they'll be okay. They're growing revenue fantastically, 30% for the past 30 quarters, but not taking a position in it yet. Microsoft 420, okay. Getting some parts of the street a little bit more excited about MSFT. Zondas still up. Ondas is down 1%. Oh, wow. It was up 10. Now it's down 1. So that reversed. Where's SPY? Yeah, SPY's chopping. Guys, it looks like we're chopping today. It's reminding me of February. We're not going straight down or straight up. I mean, obviously, we're more red than not, but Shopify back to 100. There you go. But it feels choppy, which is good, to be honest. Like, that's actually really good. If we can stay flat for another, forget a week, we should stay flat for another couple months so the market can digest all of this. But I think that's like not going to happen. We're probably going to make a swing up or down. But it's not crazy to go flat. You got Mike Johnson right here speaking. Let's see what he's saying right now.
And Iran warm powers resolution, but there were 2 new Republicans that voted for it. Are you confident that you can keep leading back these things? Yes, look, Iran is in a, we're not having kinetic activity right now, as we would say. The president has declared Operation Epic Fury to have concluded. And now we're working on the next project, which is getting the Strait of Hormuz open. We don't expect that to be a warfare activity, so to speak. So we've got to allow the administration time to negotiate these things. The president has been doing that in earnest. The difficulty, as they've articulated in the White House, is that you got to make sure you're negotiating with the right parties. And it's taken Iran some time because the top layers of leadership were taken out to make sure the right people with the right authority are at the table. So that's been the complicating factor. I do know that our allies and our neighbors and friends around the world. And most recently, in the discussion the president had with Xi in China just in the last couple of days, everyone has an interest in the strait being reopened for commerce. And so you're going to have, I think, international partners who assist with that. We think it comes to a conclusion soon. And I don't think Congress needs to get in the way of the administration as they finish what is now a negotiation instead of a military conflict. That's the way we see it. So we'll see how that goes.
These are just useless updates. They've been literally saying this for the past month. Like they have nothing new to say. We don't need other countries to get involved. Everything's going to be okay. Conflict will end soon. We're going to be opening it up. It's like nothing's happening, dude. Every time they say something's happening, nothing happens. Again, the market doesn't care. So I don't know if we should care that much until the market starts caring, but a lot of this stuff is kind of pointless. 493 on app 11. Mitt, do you have an opinion on Symbotic? Look, I think the next S curve we're going to get is humanoid robotics and robotics in general. And I think it's time, given this live stream that has gone absolutely viral from Figure, to start really doubling down and focusing on the humanoid robotics and overall robotics supply chain, but mainly humanoid robotics. Because, look, we have tens of millions of GPUs. Elon and Brett and Jeff Thomas at Eptronic, they think we're going to have billions of robots. There's going to be a lot of companies that help assist there. Now, the reason it might be premature, and I don't have any thoughts on Symbotic in particular, but the reason it might be premature to focus this deeply on robotics is because the AI might not be good enough yet for the robots to actually be deployed at scale. But this live stream going viral by Figure of the robot doing the basic task of flipping over the packages, that got Figure, it was a really smart marketing move on a lot of people's radar, and it got the concept of robots once again scaling on a lot of people's radar. And I think eventually you're going to have the JP Morgans, the Bank of Americas start coming out with their institutional research on humanoid robotics companies outside of just like Amazon, Tesla, and Figure and Eptronic and all the Chinese ones. And the supply chain that helps create those robots is something we need to take a look at. So, and a lot of those companies are not that different from the ones we have to, like, theoretically, right? You're going to have a lot of chips. Nvidia will play a role there. Micron will have to create memory, play a role there. But like for example, an actuator, which is a fundamentally important and critical component of the humanoid robots, like that has a lot of elements in the supply chain to build those actuators to make those robots function. That there's nothing to do with GPUs. That's a fully fundamental robotics supply chain issue. And going deeper into that thesis, I think what's going to be really important over the coming weeks. ServiceNow, there you go. A little bit of love, 94.50. That's getting some more love. Is there a robotics ETF yet? Yes. BOT, B-O-T, they actually own a bunch of these private companies. That's kind of like a treasury for robot companies. So if you really want exposure, I guess, BOT, I'm sure they'll be adding a lot more assets to what they do, but that's one way to get exposure. Yeah, OUST, another one that's super important. I'm trying to compile a list of all these, and we'll start putting out some research on it. But there's going to be a lot of different components to what helps. But there's not just one or two. I think just like when ChatGPT launched, there's literally hundreds of companies that have gone up and to the right because of what it takes to build a supply chain for GPUs. I think to an extent that's going to happen for robots. The big if is if Brett and Elon are right, that there's going to be billions of these things walking across the planet, which I'm a little skeptical of right now. Like, I think it will happen. I don't know if it's like a 2030 story or 2032 story. I definitely don't think it's a 2028 story. I think there's just way too much manufacturing and AI that needs to get better. Because now we know how to make the GPUs, and Jensen keeps coming up with a new one every year. So it's like he has the supply chain in place. And so it's predictable to say Amcor is going to do XYZ revenue in a couple of years because the demand is there. It's not that predictable for some of the robot companies. Is Apple hitting a new all-time high? Apple 300.50. Yup, we had 301. That was a new all-time high. I work for Walmart supply chain and we have Symbotic in our DC. Yeah, I mean, Walmart's partnership with that is actually very interesting. It seems like it's going to be important. We have seen robots do stuff for 5 years as a nothing burger. I really disagree that it's a nothing burger. I think the robot thesis is going to produce trillions of dollars of market cap. It feels like a nothing burger right now because the robots can't really do anything yet. But it's the most obvious thing in the world. Like, by the way, this figure bot that's doing 3 packages a second, that has reached parity with a human. They're trying to do 3 packages per second because that's what a human can do. Eventually, if it gets better than 3 packages a second, it's going to be way more. And already it's been doing it for 35 hours, the live stream, and has never complained about going to the bathroom, or getting more benefits. Like, it's going to happen. It's just the AI has to get up there. Microsoft 423. There you go. Seeing software come back a little bit. The 10-year also participating in the software rally as that's up 4.57%. Starbucks laying off 300 corporate employees in its regional support offices. White collar workers at Starbucks, 300 of them, just got hit. Yeah, we're talking about potentially blue collar jobs getting erased, but the white collar jobs also getting hit here. Do you think there's any good ETFs for robot? I don't think you can play robotics through the ETFs. I think we need to do some really deep research and digging into the companies that are relevant to humanoid robotics, because all the companies that are in the ETFs are like, they're already known, right? There's no alpha there, is my point. They've been out there for a while. They can do well, but I'm talking about going into the nuts and bolts of like finding the company that supplies the company for the company's thing that is going to have high demand if billions of robots actually get involved. And that just takes a bit more research. But it's also hard to do those research because those purchase orders aren't in, right? Like, the reason it's easy to see that photonics is very big is because Nvidia is investing a lot in photonics. And so you can see, oh, these are the companies that are supplying it. These are the companies that are important. These are the companies that are relevant. You don't have, billions of robots or even millions of robots, hundreds of thousands of robots out there yet. Bitcoin's still red. Do you think drones are part of the robotics wave? Not really. Like, drones are super relevant and important, but I don't think there's going to be a drone in your house making your coffee. And I don't think there's going to be a drone in a warehouse replicating a human's job, The drone might be monitoring the human as they're working, because that's the society that we live in right now. But today is the last day for Powell as Fed chair. Here's some coverage before he officially goes back to being a private citizen.
Elements when you talk about what he's been through, the COVID saving, the inflation fighting. I mean, that really tells the story.
And of course, his defense of the Fed as an independent agency, I think some argue that will be his long-lasting legacy.
I think his major legacy is the defense of the Fed as an independent agency throughout attacks from President Trump and ultimately a criminal investigation. I did put together a little highlight reel of some of Powell's greatest hits on independence.
Independence is what allows us to do our jobs. It is so important for our economy, for the people that we serve, that they can depend over time on a central bank that operates that way, free of political influence. We're always going to do the same thing, which is we're going to use our tools to foster maximum employment and price stability for the benefit of the American people. This new threat is not about my testimony last June or about the renovation of the Federal Reserve buildings. It is not about Congress's oversight role. Those are pretexts. The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president. After my term as chair ends on May 15, I will continue to serve as a governor for a period of time to be determined. I've said that I will not leave the board until this investigation is well and truly over, with transparency and finality, and I stand by that.
Fed Chair Powell standing firm against, the insults. He never shot back. He just said we are independent of political pressure.
Powell was a class act. No matter if you like him or don't like him, he was a class act. And ultimately, time will tell how Kevin Warsh is. But I mean, yes, he missed inflation in 2021. He got a lot of help by ChatGPT to make sure we had productivity gains. But he's also, he had 2 presidents print $10 trillion while he was in office. So yeah, he missed the inflation, but he also didn't expect a pandemic that would require this much money printing and lockdowns, which hurt the economy, right? So, I mean, definitely had a lot to deal with as Fed chair.
Sure, and we are going to do our job for the American people. And when it came down to even the criminal investigation, and even now, where he I think would like to see this completely finalized and the threat go away before stepping off as governor, but clearly standing his ground.
Yeah. Meantime, we've cut a couple hundred basis points in the last year. The 10-year at a more than 1 year high yield today. As we get closer to 4.6, the long bond is going to have its highest weekly settle in 19 years.
Because the story of this week has been hotter inflation prints, from CPI to PPI, inflation expectations rising a little bit as we wonder how long the war is going to last and how much that oil price shock is going to filter into other prices like airfares and everything else, which we're seeing show up. I just think the final chart on the Powell 10-year is the market, is the S&P 500, where, I mean, 169% total return for the S&P 500 in Powell's term definitely puts him up there as one of the best Fed chairs for the stock market. It's hard to compete with Greenspan since he was there for 19 years during that also included the tech boom. But if you annualize those returns, which is maybe a more fair, even way to do it, Powell is the winner by far. Now, this is also the subject of fierce debate. A lot of people think that it exacerbated inequality and that it was good for the rich and that, that's not a good measure.
Or at least ask people who own assets.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you think the market is any kind of indication of the economy and sentiment, I mean, Powell's had a very good run on that front.
Yeah. We'll see how things begin to change at the Fed on Monday as Warsh has his first official day. Meantime, broad pullback here this morning as the president makes his way back.
Now, the best highlight of Powell's career was not in that, but was this clip.
Growth in the third quarter was quite strong, but like most forecasters, we expect growth to moderate in coming quarters. Of course.
Brown Powell, by refusing to treat climate change like a systemic risk,
Thank you.
You are putting us.
Thank you very much. Just close this fucking door. Close the door. GDP.
Just close the effing door, baby. If I'm the Fed chair and I'm trying to figure out how to balance monetary policy for regular people so that they can, afford a car, maybe buy a house, maybe have the stock market not collapse, and I have to deal with a protester talking about climate change, yeah, I'm going to tell them to close the effing door too. It's like, sweetie, I can't control climate change. Like, please, I don't get paid enough to save the entire planet. I'm trying to kind of make sure the U.S. economy doesn't collapse. No, we're not going to handle climate change. Like, it's just like, why would you tell Powell to deal with climate change? Out of all people, how the hell is Powell going to do anything about it? What, should we just get rid of capitalism, which quite frankly is, you could argue, the biggest contributor if you believe in broad-based climate change, because greenhouse gas emissions, constant necessity for growth, et cetera. Like, Powell can't do that. It's kind of messes the U.S. economy up if we get rid of capitalismo. So, but in general, look, and for all the people saying, yeah, but Powell was political, do you not think Kevin Warsh is going to be political? Because if you do, I might have a bridge to sell you. I'm not political here in terms of trying to impose my political opinion. And I agree, Powell definitely was political. There were moments where he was absolutely political. Do we think Kevin Warsh is going to have complete, unbiased, non-political affiliations? I doubt it. I do not think we're in a market environment where any Fed chair can be completely apolitical. Is that real or AI? That's real. I think it happened end of 2024. It was pretty funny. But yeah, I think they all get political, and I don't know. I don't hold that against them. The thing that Powell messed up on is missing inflation. And it's easy for me to say that as someone who talks about the Fed. It's much harder if I was running the Fed. And so, markets went up. You got through it. Yeah, we had some bad stuff, and hopefully Kevin Warsh can clear up some of the issues. But we also printed a lot of money during COVID. Printed a lot of money. Stop printing money, save trees. Oh my goodness. Yeah. We need to stop printing money because we're tearing down trees to print money. That's actually a good point, to be honest. It's a good point. Amidst Italian influence is because of Arnie. It is literally because of Arnie. It's all Arnie. 99.43 on Shopify. Warren Buffett and Steph Curry are doing a lunch together. The winning bid, someone paid $9 million to have lunch with Buffett and Steph Curry. Okay. By the way, this is the new album cover for Drake's Iceman. The reason I'm bringing this up is because this is the White House's interpretation of Iceman, as they put a MAGA chain on. They're good at marketing, man. The Drake album is what people are talking about, and they claiming Drake to be MAGA. Which, to be honest, I think he is. He's had a few lines about Trump, which would make me think he actually likes the guy more than he doesn't like the guy. There was a bar that he had, or a caption that he had a while ago, that had to reference Trump when he almost got shot in Butler. And yeah, I think he's a fan of the guy. Julian says Trump doesn't like Drake, though. He's not a fan? Well, Julian would know. Julian's a bit more closer. It was that caption where he was like, to make it to the top, you might get your ear popped out. It was some caption like that. And it was an obvious reference to what happened in Butler. But then again, who knows? Drake's one of those, rappers that doesn't really get political. He doesn't like being political. And to be honest, I don't blame him. Michael Jordan didn't get political either. Made a lot of money. Sometimes just because you're an artist, you don't need to impose your political beliefs. I ran down 7.2 as that one is also getting hit right here. U.S. Department of Energy just posted. Let me see. What do they say? Hollaby says, amid I have 57,000 shares of Figma in the 16s holding. Congrats, man. I remember when you told us that you were buying it. It was a big day. Seen a move right here. Oh, wow. U.S. Department of Energy. Dropping 3 albums is cool, but we're still on Energy. That is crazy. This is a Drake song for those that don't know Energy. This is also an album cover. If you're reading this, Unleash American Energy. From the album cover, if you're reading this is too late. Dude, this administration knows how to market. This administration knows how to market. That is crazy, dude. I wonder if the next administration actually is going to be good at speaking to the youth, like this TikTok marketing era. Because it is important. Read it right there, 157, Netflix, 87.55. People say that's cringe. That could be cringe, but it's what gets people's attention. If you were around in 2015, that's an iconic album. If you see that cover art interpolated in the context of whatever the U.S. Department of Energy is saying, it gets you to stop scrolling and look at the message, which is the most important thing. IGV is 91.74. That's up 1.2%. Why is the handwriting such shit? That's the handwriting that Drake used on the album in 2014. Okay, what other freaking macro updates do we have? Oh, wow, this is crazy. Jensen has... Is this his phone? Jensen... Oh, no, this is someone else's phone. Jensen's looking at a triangular folding phone here in China.
You can't hold it.
What? That's incredible.
Yeah.
There you go. Jensen signing phones. Dude, a triangular fold, I don't think I think that's an iPad at that point. I don't know if you need that. Yeah, an iPad in your pocket. There you go. All right, what else do we got? What else do we got? SPY's flat, Micron still down. Jensen's partying in China. Axon a little bit green. Software rotation, I think, is a bit more real today than not. You got Shopify, Palantir, ServiceNow, Salesforce, all of these, at least today, going green. The semis aren't all down. Most of them are, but they're a little flat. I mean, some of them are flat if they're kind of green. The rest are 3 to 5% down. See, there's a couple of macro stats we didn't talk about. So let me pull these up. These are actually really important to look at. So XOXL triple leverage semis has been going kind of crazy. So $1 billion of inflows, not over the past month, not over the past week, on Tuesday. At the same time, the 3x leverage short semiconductor ETF posted negative 230 million in outflows. So we had negative 230 million in outflows on the short ETF, $1 billion in a day. That was the day we had the dip, right? So people bought the dip on SOX. I think it fell to like 150. The 3x leverage long NASDAQ ETF, TQQQ, saw 160 million in inflows, the highest since March 31st. SOXL is now up 354% since the March bottom, which is consistent with retail appetite for equities. As I pull up this chart right here, retail's buying, and they're buying pretty heavy. Cumulative retail inflows year to date are tracking above every comparable period over the last 7 years except 2021. After a brief pause in March, retail purchases surged in April to a level seen only 13% of the time. That's what the Robinhood data also indicated yesterday. In the week ending May 1st, retail purchases ranked in the top 2% of all weekly inflows recorded since 2019. At this pace, cumulative purchases by individual investors will exceed the 2021 record by as early as July. So if this continues in the next couple of months, retail will be heavily investing inside of this market, which I don't know if that's scary given how much we already are at all-time highs, or if that just means the party continues. Here's the thing. Let's say Nvidia crushes it as ServiceNow touches 95. How much higher do we have to go after that? Right? Like, is Nvidia just going straight to 250, 270? And what's the upside after that? Because, I mean, let's say Nvidia does touch 250. That was kind of the target for a lot of people this year on the super bull case. Are we going to 300 end of year? Are we really going to go to 8 trillion in market cap that quickly? Or is this going to need to digest, you know? And so I think that's going to be a big question for a lot of people asking in terms of how the earnings end up playing out. ServiceNow 94.71. SPY still flat. AMD down 4. AMD lost 4.39. The 2X Cerebris ETF, it's called CRBG for those that wanted the ticker. Or hold on, it's CBRG, I think. CBRG. Yeah, CBRG. $42 million of trading in the first hour. Unbelievable, dude. This is like the top 0.1% for ETF launches if that continues. 2x levered Cerebris. Okay. There you go. IOND up 4%. Is bought actually halted? Did you guys freaking... Did you guys really buy this thing? I am not buying it. I already said I'm not buying it. I already have private stakes in Eptronic and Figure. So it kind of doesn't make sense for me to buy a treasury that has a stake in it. But no, this is going to be volatile, dude, because those valuations in the private market's going to be volatile. Like, I'm usually not a fan of these ETFs with private stocks. Like, I didn't buy RVI for the same reason. I just don't like betting on stuff like that. But it is a way to get exposure. Kevin Ju tweeted about it. Did he? Dude, this guy is like pumping a new ticker every single day. Did he actually? Oh my goodness, he did. So did he sell his QuantumScape? I think he had to, right? Yeah, I think he had to. So he sold QS. This guy I told you guys about the other day, he's going all in on a new stock like every other day or whatever. Okay, he went from Iran to HIMS to QuantumScape to bot. Yeah, so it wasn't me. It was this guy. To bet on a treasury company that has a bunch of humanoid robotics holdings, you have to assume the humanoid robotic private valuations, Figure Reptronic, actually go up for that thing to go up. Unless there's a different part of their business model, but that's how I understand it. And maybe it does, but I mean, like, you're going to have to wait then, right? Unless he thinks the premium to NAV is going to be so substantial that people, and by the way, Figure is worth 40 billion. They already trade at a pretty premium valuation. Like, it's not a small company. 40 billion in the private markets is pretty big. So I don't know. That's a bit confusing to me. HIMS, is that green? HIMS is green back to 25.17. Apple is still up as well. There's no way he sold QS. Well, how did he get the money then to buy bot? Like, his whole point is I'm going to double my money on every other stock, and I will, what is it, get like 15 doubles to 10 million? That which he did, by the way, in 2020. Like, the guy did that, and that's, you know, why people follow him. And he got a lot of attention off that. So he had to sell QS unless he put in new money, but I doubt he put in new money because that defeats the whole purpose of it. Intel getting rejected again. 107. Where's Duolingo? Are we green? Little green. He sold QS. Okay, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. Let's go to the stock draft. By the way, I was watching some streamers last night stream a listening stream for the Drake album. And like, I usually don't watch streamers that often outside of like Steve and Matt and Tanner and those guys. And I was in the comments and I was like, this is kind of crazy to be part of the chat, like to legit be part of the chat. And I asked a question and no one answered me. I was like, do I spam my question? I was like, wait a second. I hate when people spam their thing in my chat. So I was like, I told myself not to, but I'm like, someone better answer me in this shit. But I'm like, wait a second. There's like 30,000 people. No one's going to freaking answer me. It was a bit of, yeah, it was one of those experiences that was similar. Matt's at 52. I'm at 55. Steve's at 36. Tanner's at 7. Chris is at 26. So we're still up there. Again, it is impossible to answer every single question, but hopefully that's why other people in the chat that could answer other people too. Star Buccaneer says, stop ignoring me. It's not my first time in a stream, but like usually I'm not in a stream outside of like the finance stuff. So like if I'm in Tanner's chat or Chris's chat or Steve's chat, like, you know, we all know each other. So it's not that big of a deal. But this was like 30,000 people, some guy on Twitch streaming the music. Some of these streamers are mean, bro. Some of these streamers are mean. Like they talk down to their audience in such aggressive ways. And they're like kids. They're like 19. And like the people in the chat are laughing when the streamer acts like a jerk. And I'm like, okay, this is just like some weird Gen Z toxic interpretation of content. But what streamer were you watching? Whoever was streaming the album, I think is some Indian dude, Stable Ronaldo or something. I just wanted to see someone listening to the album. And, you know, I was like, okay, that's weird. We bully you here. Okay, so they were probably bullying him, but I don't give in to the bullying usually. I just go with it. I think that's one of the different things about me as a streamer. I go with I don't get mad at the bullying. I'm just like, okay, I laugh at it. It's fun. But, you know, for other people, they get upset. He's not Indian. He looked Indian. Maybe he's not. Do we have an update on Singapore? Yes, I will put the Singapore link in the chat. June 27th, we are doing the meetup in Singapore. Very excited for it. I will be there for a full week, a little bit more than a week. So June 27th, if you are in Singapore, I have a couple people I know that are flying from the US to come to Singapore. Singapore is a top 5 country that watches the channel. So very excited to be there. Obviously, my uncle's there. It'll be super fun to spend some time with family. Already bought the ticket. I love it. Exciting. There's the link right there in the chat. Nvidia 226. Should be fun. I will not chew gum there, but it should be fun. I don't know if we're doing UK, guys. For those that are asking UK, this summer is just getting really busy. Initially, wanted to do UK. I don't know if we're going to have UK on deck. It just takes a lot of planning, and there's just so much shit going on behind the scenes that Singapore is easier because I have family there. And so it's like UK is just a whole different challenge. So if it doesn't happen this year, it will eventually happen, but I will let people if it doesn't want to get stabbed. That's also part of the reason. But no, in all seriousness, there's just a lot of different things going on behind the scenes. So planning that type of international trip is a little bit harder. Nebius loses all of its gains. That one goes red, 218. What happened during the meetup? Literally, everyone just talks to each other about stocks. We have food, we have drinks. There's some group sessions where I'm talking to people 10, 15 at a time. And yeah. Overall, it's a good time. I'll be at Tanner's meetup, though, in Canada. So that'll be fun. There's no major headlines. I mean, I think I'm not seeing anything coming through my screen. No crazy option flow. 10 years at 4.6. Why not? We looked at most of the 13Fs already. We're not getting anything too crazy. Talked about a bunch of them yesterday. Market's relatively flat. I mean, not flat, but like you're not seeing a crazy move up or down. We talked about the Iran stuff. Bill Ackman bought Microsoft. Again, the Nvidia headline is that Trump said Nvidia is not going to be selling chips to China, or that he didn't talk about it. So that kind of reversal the moves from yesterday. Dude, we hit 240 last night. Were you guys seeing your Robinhood or your Fidelity or whatever you used when it hit 240? Because me and Steve were doing the podcast and we're like, whoa, 240. And then it just came right back down. CNBC said Jensen could not use his charm to get the China trade deal done. Yeah, I mean, that's really the reason Jensen went there. Now, he didn't say that's the reason he went there, but obviously he was probably a bit more excited than not to potentially get a deal. But so far, it looks like that might not have happened. Iran down 8. That is red. Listen to Adam Parker. Let's see his thoughts on what's going on right now.
In 2021, I'm always surprised. And I think what everyone I talk to has learned is pre-positioning for geopolitical risk is just not smart in an equity portfolio. You just have to time it perfectly. And so, yeah, when the president goes over, it gets drummed up and we get more concerned about it. But I don't know anyone who's saying, I'm going to like proactively change my positioning for some, risk event. So I think it's more a challenge of how do I get defensive in the portfolio? I'm worried about how much semis are up. I think the fundamentals are still good. How can I find defense? And when we were, I guess, formulating our investment heuristics, it was by pharma staples, telcos, play defense. But those stocks are smaller than they used to be as a percentage of the market. Can't really get defensive, and they're missing. So the worst thing in the world is, I like the golf analogy of like you hit an iron off the tee and then you hit that out of bounds. Like you don't want to like play defense and then buy something that misses.
Right,
so
right.
I think it's really a new kind of defense.
Well, what is the modern playbook then?
So I think it's kind of a combination of they're still they have upward revisions. They're still growing. There's some drug distributors, maybe managed care. There's some select consumer that are sort of the brands with pricing. It's maybe aggregates like Vulcan and Martin Marietta. Maybe it's waste. Something I'm confident is around in 2030, not disrupted by AI. So it's just not the same playbook, and I think that's part of the challenge for a lot of people that I talk to.
How much vulnerability are rates going to create here?
It's funny. There are regimes where I feel like all people want to talk about is the Fed. I know you were just talking about Powell's tenure, but I'm not getting a lot of traffic on that right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think you guys know that the balance sheet expansion is the thing most correlated to the equity market. And if you're going to create trillions on a computer and buy your own securities. It's going to flow its way into the Mag 7. Like, that's not super shocking. But I think it's more about the Fed.
The Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund put out their 13F, and they did nothing. Top 5 positions are still Uber, EA, Take-Two, Lucid, CTEV. So you got nothing from the Saudis in terms of 13Fs or buys or sells.
Balance sheet from here than the front end. I don't think people are going to be super psyched if they start cutting the way they were 3 years ago, because they're only going to do that if the economy really deteriorates. So it's not the same as 2023 there. And obviously they're not going to like it if they hike. So I think pause is just good enough. And so I'm not getting a lot of questions about that. It's more about how do you time the memory trade? And my recent answer is like, look, I'm not God. Like I'm not seeing data points that nobody at the biggest and smartest multi-strats aren't all over with 50 smart people all day long. So if I do downgrade at the right time, it'll be lucky. So it's more about
the fact that he's saying his institutional clients are asking him how to time the memory trade. It's important to recognize the subtle undertone in that. Did everyone kind of get what he's saying? His institutional clients are saying, hey, how do we time the memory trade? Which means they're saying, how do we get the hell out at the right time? They're not thinking of it as a long-term investment, at least not his institutional clients. Maybe other institutional clients are thinking that. So that is kind of interesting to hear that they're asking him, hey, tell us when the hell to get out. And he's like, dude, I don't know when to tell you to get out. But they're not asking when do we get out of Nvidia, because they probably have a lot more long-term conviction in staying in Nvidia. And so, that is the debate on memory and a lot of these picks and shovels in the first place.
How do I risk manage when 2/3 of the S&P is an AI semi ETF? How do I find other stuff? How do I keep market weight exposure? It doesn't hurt me, help me, but find alpha elsewhere. So we've been writing a lot about, like, this is a regime you run a more diversified book, or this is a regime where you don't add to losers, or just kind of portfolio strategy. Because how am I going to be the one who calls the top of the memory trade? I'm always surprised that people have the confidence to make that call when.
Oh, they've got the confidence.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people, some people think that the valuations on the memory names still look, I'm thinking of, we talked to Rob Citrone, for instance, at Milken last week. Yeah. He was saying, like, they're still undervalued, those memory chips, when you look at their forward earnings.
It's an interesting point. When I covered semiconductors years ago, I remember Micron in the tech crisis did $1.25 in earnings one quarter, and the call was annualize it, which we all know is a little squishy. Make it $5, which they never earned. I'll pay 20 times that $100 target, right? So it was 20 times an annualized quarter. Now the buys, it's about 7 times next year's earnings, 8 times depending on your view. Earnings went from 50 to $100 in the last print, so there's nowhere near as expensive. And the question is, if CAT trades at something like 30 times $30 in earnings, and Micron trades at 7 or 8 times 100, probably they're not both right. Mm-hmm. Like probably if you're saying I'm going to sell these things because the inevitability of a data center overbuild is going to work its way in the price, I probably would long Micron short CAT in the near term.
So what do you like better? What looks more compelling?
Look, our pitch has been, it's going to sound so lame, but we've been saying we think Nvidia is going to double. From here, and that was April 21st or whatever. But I think they
see, and this is it's really easy to say Nvidia is going to double. It's the safe thing to say, because Nvidia doesn't have the concerns of any of the Caterpillars, the Microns, the Microns of the world, the SanDisk. Like, all of these data center components aren't the intellectual property that essentially Nvidia has a 30-year monopoly on, which is the GPU that they have all the demand for. So yeah, I think it's reasonable to say Nvidia is going to double from here. Does that mean all the parts that help Nvidia get those earnings are also going to double from here? And it's not easy to necessarily make that call. Whereas you can say Nvidia probably is going higher.
I don't think you can get off CUDA for any complex stuff. So I still think the North Star semis over software. I just think it's all, how do you jockey within. You guys probably don't see this day to day, but a lot of people, what happens is, let's say you're underweight memory, which has been a bad call. Your risk guy says to you, well, your tech book grows more slowly and is more expensive than the tech sector. How do you put that in your pipe and smoke it? So what do? They buy Micron and SanDisk, even though it's already up a lot and they were underweight, for risk reasons, not alpha. So I think there could still be more flows in the memory names just on guys who have been underweight and are just tired of it killing them. If you're a mid-cap growth PM, this SanDisk is the biggest thing in your benchmark now, and you've been underweight. So you sort of hate buying stuff when it's up 6-fold. You feel stupid. You feel stupid telling your investors that. But it just hurts you too much from the risk perspective. So I think a lot of PM portfolio managers I talk to are now saying, I own stuff for risk and stock picking, not just the old days where it was only stock picking.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more of a risk managed market.
Yeah, and it rhymes with a lot of desk notes this week that certain samples of investors in the market are getting stopped out because of this trade.
Yeah, a big part of what we do at TradeVerde is risk work. Clients, institutional clients send us their books to look at customers.
So look, I think it's a fair point. In what world would Nvidia double and Micron wouldn't? It will come down to margins, right, and supply. So if there's more supply that's online, then Micron doesn't have the leverage that they might be saying that they have. And why is my screen not showing up? I don't know why Weeble's being weird. If there is more bargaining power from the hyperscalers when it comes to memory, then obviously that's going to be something that could affect the memory side. Now, granted, the bull case is if there's all this demand, then you're going to need a lot more memory. So that's the back and forth that you have. But it's always been a gross margin supply based story versus a boom bust cyclicality story. That's like the debate that happens. My screen is not showing. I don't know why. Is that a sign to end the stream? I think that is. Okay. Too many data centers in New Jersey messing up our stream. Well, at least let it show me ChatGPT. We can do word of the day. All right, I think that's it, folks. I think we're done. We'll be back on the market close. If I don't see you today, or if I don't see you for the weekend, then we'll see you on Monday for the market open. Again, I don't think today is really bearish. The S&P is down 1%, whatever. The S&P is making a new all-time high every single day. Micron down 5%, whatever. Micron's up 200% the past month. Like, it's nothing to get too crazy about. I want to see if this price action continues into next week. Obviously, a little bit more bearish given the 10 years spiking and oil spiking up, but that's also something that's been a story for the past couple of days. So if the market wants to price that in today, then I guess the market's pricing it in, but not necessarily something that changes the entire thesis right here. Since when is FOMOing into stocks risk management? That is a fair point. And well, the thing is, the institutional clients, right, that are probably asking for his opinion on Micron are probably feeling a lot of FOMO, which goes to the conversation we've been having all week about people having FOMO. Again, the core argument, to summarize what he was saying, if you look at Micron's EPS or any of the memory players' EPS, by 2028, it's expected to go down 60%. If that happens, Nvidia is expected to still grow, not at 80% like Nvidia is growing, but probably 20 to 30%, which can justify the multiple and the growth continuing. If it falls off a cliff, which again, the bulls will say it can't fall off a cliff because you need memory or you need all these components for GPUs, which is fair. But if there's an overbuild, there's more supply than there is demand. There's architecture on Nvidia to innovate, to not need as much memory. There's more leverage that Nvidia has to negotiate with the suppliers. That's where you have that hiccup. And at least that's how the institutional clients are kind of thinking of it, which is why they're framing it as a trade and they're thinking of the other guys as an investment. But maybe it becomes an investment. Maybe Micron goes to 3 trillion if Nvidia goes to 10 trillion, right? And that's the debate I think everyone's having. All right, we did 4 for 4 on word of the day. Why is this word out of all words happening again? We already know this word. We did it. This is like the 3rd time it pops up. Why does it keep giving me this word? We're going to have to go for another one. We've done sagacious too many times. We've heard too many jokes about this. Give me another one. Let's see if we can do 5 for 5. Enervate or enervate. Constantly watching every tick can enervate even experienced traders to drain someone's energy or weaken them. Enervate. Okay, I'm going with enervate. Let's see. Let's see if that's right. Going for 5 for 5 here. Let's see.
Enervate.
Dude, it's a new day for the market open. New day for the market open. We don't get words wrong anymore. We do what we got to do here. We are learning English. We are learning English. All right, I'll be back on the market close. Basis points will be out at 6 p.m. Hopefully it'll be a good one for people to enjoy. Next week is going to be absolutely crazy. We've got Nvidia. We've got a couple CEOs hopping on the show. Obviously, we've got hopefully some reaction on this tenure by the administration and trying to calm it down, or else we're going to see how the equity markets react. But going to be a crazy week. A lot of stuff to talk about. If I don't see anyone on the market close, have a great weekend. We'll be back on the market open. Overall, decent week. Markets at all-time highs. I know it's a little bit red today, but nonetheless, even if you're not super exposed to every sector going up, even a little bit of exposure is nice. And again, if you're buying Microsoft, you're buying Meta, and it's not moving, it's part of being an investor. You're not going to be in every little thing that goes up 20, 30% a day. The long-term, good quality companies will compound, and that's really the only thing that matters if that continues to be the case. All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. I will see you guys on the market close. If not, have a great weekend, and we'll be back next week. Thank you, everybody. Have a good one.